Chapter 5:14, Deadly Encounter. A strong wind was blowing. Lin Feng suddenly disappeared from his position and Feng Chen's attack landed on the spot where Lin Feng was standing. Feng Chen's terrifying wings flapped once and he disappeared. He was following closely behind Lin Feng with tremendous speed. They were both moving extremely fast, much faster than Chu Zhanpeng. Lin Feng was far from being able to reach the same speed as Feng Chen. He could only rely on his extremely acute senses and his understanding of the wind. If he didn't, he would never be able to dodge Feng Chen's attack. Lin Feng was extremely quick when moving with the wind. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered again as he avoided Feng Chen's attack. The terrifying deadly energy within the thunderfire swept past Lin Feng's body and ripped his clothes. Lin Feng's silhouette continuously flickered and disappeared while Feng Chen was following and attacking him. At that moment, they were both moving at extreme speeds and neither of them paused for a moment. Lin Feng was well aware that he had no time to waste because Feng Chen would eventually catch him. Therefore, he released his purple spirit again, which turned into multiple purple snakes. Die! Feng Chen's silhouette flickered and he rushed towards Lin Feng again, but Lin Feng's purple snakes were already closing in on him. Feng Chen smiled coldly and raised his hand. His thunderfire destroyed Lin Feng's purple snakes in a flash, nothing remained. Besides, Feng Chen was not slowed at all. Subtle sounds filled the air. The light of Lin Feng's deadly sword started flashing around his body. It was gloomy and sinister. Kacha! The thunderfire and Lin Feng's deadly sword collided, diffusing a dazzling light. Immediately after, the crowd saw Lin Feng's deadly sword disperse inside the thunderfire. It had completely disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng's deadly sword was unable to block Feng Chen's thunderfire. Feng Chen is much stronger than the second envoy. The second envoy's thunder was already extremely powerful, but Feng Chen's thunderfire is infinitely stronger. Besides, he is also much faster than the second envoy. Thought the crowd. At that moment, they didn't think that Lin Feng had a chance anymore. The situation looked grim for him. He would eventually be killed by Feng Chen if this continued. But Lin Feng wasn't worried. He was still fixedly staring at Feng Chen with his pitch-black eyes. He didn't look alarmed. Feng Chen was stronger than him by 3 cultivation layers, that was a fact. Lin Feng couldn't afford to be careless, he could only rely on his battle energy. After Lin Feng's sword disappeared, Feng Chen stopped. He didn't rush to attack Lin Feng anymore, he only looked at him while smiling coldly. "And now, how do you feel?" asked Feng Chen in an evil way. Lin Feng had extremely high natural abilities, but he had only broken through to the 3rd Xian Qi layer. He couldn't fight against him, who had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer. "You have broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer. I have only broken through to the 3rd Xian Qi layer. I am like an infant compared to you. I really don't understand how you can act so proud. You're really shameless. The people from Tianfeng are all shameless," said Lin Feng indifferently. He released a terrifying battle energy filled with murderous intent. It seemed like it was ready to explode out. When the crowd sensed Lin Feng's battle energy, they shivered. Lin Feng was really an extraordinary person. He was both fearless and unyielding. No matter how strong his opponents were, Lin Feng remained fearless and battled until the end. Feng Chen was looking at Lin Feng with a cold glare. Even though he had a clear advantage and had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi, he was fighting against a cultivator of the 3rd Xian Qi layer and should have easily killed him. Indeed, he had no right to act proud. The battle wasn't a fair match from the beginning. However, he was feeling extremely proud of himself. It was because Lin Feng was extremely powerful, so Feng Chen had forgotten about Lin Feng's cultivation. He was regarding Lin Feng as an extremely strong cultivator, which caused him to feel proud. "Get ready to die," said Feng Chen. He joined his hands with the thunderfire he was holding. A terrifying dark light then revolved through the air. It seemed like the ground was going to explode from the power of the sphere. Thunder was dancing inside the sphere. He was looking at Lin Feng in an extremely evil way, while condensing the terrifying sphere filled with deadly energy between his hands. His face was filled with killing intent. Feng Chen didn't intend to give Lin Feng a single opportunity to prolong the battle. He would continuously chase him and use his thunderfire to attack Lin Feng. If it touched Lin Feng, he would turn into a pile of ashes. Who would say that people from Tianfeng were shameless then? Wasn't Ruolan Shan also looking down on him? He had surprisingly allowed the battle. Ruolan Shan was acting extremely friendly to Lin Feng, which infuriated Feng Chen. It made him furious. Therefore, Feng Chen wasn't going to be merciful to Lin Feng, so he immediately started using his most powerful attack. He wanted to crush Lin Feng and show to Ruolan Shan how strong he was. Lin Feng was fixedly staring at that deadly sphere of thunderfire. Of course, Lin Feng could sense the incredible destructive power it contained. Hu! Lin Feng took a deep breath and released his pure qi, which filled the air. It transformed into flames which illuminated the surroundings. The terrifying flames changed into black flames and moved towards Lin Feng's hand to form a black lotus. Lin Feng wasn't going to restrain himself. He immediately released all his pure qi and formed it into a black lotus. It looked grim and deadly. The crowd was shaking. Lin Feng was also furious at Feng Chen. He surprisingly used all his pure qi to condense the black lotus. He was using everything he had to attack Feng Chen. Lin Feng's black lotus was the opposite of Feng Chen's sphere. It was dark, black, oppressive, and it wasn't dazzling like Feng Chen's sphere. Nobody had doubts when it came to the power of the black lotus though. Feng Chen also stared at Lin Feng's black lotus. At first he was surprised, but then smiled evilly. That's the best attack you have. Since that's the case, I will destroy it and then you can die while knowing you were never my match, said Feng Chen in an evil tone while smiling. Lin Feng's empowered black lotus was stronger than Feng Chen's normal thunderfire, but his cultivation was much higher than Lin Feng. Feng Chen started to empower his thunderfire with his pure qi. His pure qi would be stronger than what Lin Feng used. Die! Shouted Feng Chen furiously while throwing himself towards Lin Feng at full speed. His speed was inconceivable. Wind! Lin Feng's facial expression looked cold. He moved on the wind and rose into the air. He didn't attack Feng Chen and dodged instead. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng still wasn't fighting. A banner appeared. It was Lin Feng's sun banner. Besides, that banner was absorbing sunlight hidden behind the dark sky. Lin Feng then raised the hand which contained the black lotus. His body shook and the fire from the banner abruptly rushed into the black lotus. Lin Feng was borrowing power from the sun banner. The sunlight was being absorbed into the sun pattern on the banner. The banner was filled with sunlight and was illuminating the dark sky. It seemed like Lin Feng's banner had become the sun. How terrifying! What kind of skills did Lin Feng learn? Astonishingly, he could borrow the strength of the sun. The crowd was surprised. Lin Feng wasn't retreating, he was stalling for time to unleash all of his strength. His black lotus could still become much stronger. Feng Chen raised his head and looked at Lin Feng in an evil way. The wind character between his eyebrows was shining in a peculiar way. Lin Feng, die! Shouted Feng Chen furiously. His speed increased and he dashed into the sky. Die! Lin Feng, this time, didn't dodge. He moved towards the incoming Feng Chen. His terrifying deadly energy filled the air, and his sword qi was lacerating the atmosphere as he moved. The entire atmosphere was filled with deadly energy. Boom! A loud explosion filled the sky which made people shiver. A dazzling light appeared in the sky. It was the result of the collision between the grim black lotus and the dazzling thunderfire. A terrifying black light spread across the sky as far as the eyes could see. The black light was flashing and twinkling. Feng Chen and Lin Feng had disappeared for a few moments as the black light spread in every direction. Piercingly sharp sounds filled the air. Feng Chen's sphere and Lin Feng's black lotus were in a constant battle of power. They were both fighting to destroy the opposing power. Besides, a terrifying energy filled the skies. How terrifying! The Thunderfire and the Black Lotus were both extremely powerful. They wouldn't stop until the other was destroyed. Nobody could say which of the attacks would beat the other. They had destroyed everything in their path and their energy filled the sky. It created a dazzling light in the sky. The crowd had to move back unceasingly. They could only retreat into the distance to avoid the violent energy that was being released. The terrifying energy which resulted from those attacks even made a huge crevice appear beneath their point of collision. It was astonishing. Chapter 5:15, Burn and Swallow. The deadly energy that was blowing against Lin Feng and Feng Chen's faces made them look particularly hideous. Dazzling lights filled the air around them. Besides, under that dazzling light, they were both attacking, one of them from above and the other from below. They were both staring at the other, trying to influence the battle with sheer determination. One of them would die, but neither would flinch. Lin Feng, today you are going to die, said Feng Chen coldly. He sounded extremely confident that Lin Feng would die by his hands. Me? Die? Lin Feng had a resplendent smile on his face and then said in an ice-cold tone, "You are too arrogant." "I am arrogant because I am strong enough to be arrogant." "You used all your pure qi to condense the Black Lotus. How do you plan to fight against me now?" said Feng Chen, whose voice seemed to harmonize with the sound of energy ripping through the atmosphere. A terrifying energy was still entering the air. At that moment, Feng Chen raised his left hand and more thunderfire twinkled. It was terrifying. Feng Chen will be merciless and Lin Feng has already used all his strength. The onlookers were shaking. This time, Lin Feng was in a critical situation. Lin Feng was smiling. He seemingly found the situation very amusing. His heavenly dragon roared and merged with Lin Feng's purple spirit. The gigantic dragon was staring at Feng Chen. "Humph." Feng Chen groaned coldly and spread his bestial wings once again. He then started to beat his wings slowly. They would be able to easily block Lin Feng's spirit. "Shaman spirit," thought Lin Feng, and a gloomy white light emerged from the shaman head. It was trying to influence Feng Chen, which caused him to shiver. A soul attack. Feng Chen was surprised at first and then immediately said, "Do you think that you can influence me with such little strength? I cannot be influenced with such petty tricks. Give up." Feng Chen abruptly moved while his Thunderfire sphere continuously attacked the Black Lotus. It was in an unceasing battle for dominance. Feng Chen thought that he only needed to stop Lin Feng's Black Lotus and then attack when Lin Feng had no more pure qi left to defend himself. "Oh, is that so?" said Lin Feng mockingly. An endless ocean of surplus souls poured out of his body and entered the shaman spirit. A terrifying soul strength emerged from the shaman's spirit and attacked Feng Chen's soul, which made him shiver. The wind character written between his eyebrows suddenly grew much weaker. Feng Chen's soul was being attacked. It started fluctuating in an insane way. His thoughts were growing blurry. It was even affecting the Thunderfire sphere in his hand. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng while unleashing a small qi sword he condensed with a small amount of qi he had saved. It was incredibly sharp and deadly. "Huh!" The crowd was stupefied and their pupils shrank. Lin Feng had the advantage at that moment and was counterattacking. In the blur which was Feng Chen's mind, he could feel a sharp pure qi which made Feng Chen gnash his teeth. Without hesitation, he immediately unleashed more thunderfire which bombarded the atmosphere, creating explosion sounds as it crashed in every direction. The pure qi Lin Feng had just unleashed was instantly destroyed, but Lin Feng still had a smile on the corner of his mouth. He looked like he was going to burst into laughter at any moment. Because Feng Chen was affected by the shaman spirit and his thoughts were blurry, he had countered Lin Feng's pure qi with a monstrously terrifying thunderfire. How stupid! "Die!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. His long hair was fluttering in the wind. While floating in the air, he started to release his terrifying deadly energy. Lin Feng moved back. His black lotus was still fighting for dominance, but at the same time, his heavenly dragon roared and threw itself at Feng Chen. Feng Chen abruptly bit his lips as the pain made him regain consciousness a little. Then his terrifying thunderfire started twinkling and flashing around his body again as he then released everything towards Lin Feng's heavenly dragon. Boom! An explosion filled the air and Lin Feng's body was immediately oppressed. The black lotus disappeared under the energy of the thunderfire sphere. However, Lin Feng didn't stop at all. He continued moving. He had filled his arms with 3,000 rotations of physical strength. Boom! Explosion sounds filled the air. Lin Feng's heavenly dragon was crazily fighting against the thunderfire. Besides, while Feng Chen was busy blocking the dragon, he didn't have time to pay attention to Lin Feng, who quickly unleashed punch after punch onto Feng Chen's chest unceasingly. Feng Chen's entire body was shaking insanely. It seemed like his chest was going to explode. Each punch left him with broken bones and internal injuries. Lin Feng's physical strength was incredible. It was the exact same strength that he had used a moment before to crush the head of the second envoy, but it could only injure Feng Chen. Blood started gushing from Feng Chen's mouth as he stared at Lin Feng's blurry image. His wings started flapping as he moved to escape. "You want to escape?" shouted Lin Feng in an ice-cold tone. His heavenly dragon roared furiously and arrived in front of Feng Chen. It immediately constricted his body, which stopped him from escaping Lin Feng's onslaught. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng furiously again. Lin Feng immediately started punching him and bombarding his body with incredible strength. Feng Chen's body was being projected back by Lin Feng's fists. Boom! Kacha! Boom! Kacha! Boom! Kacha! Terrifying impact sounds filled the air, followed by the sound of bones breaking. Feng Chen's body was tightly wrapped up. He couldn't even move his wings anymore, and each time Lin Feng punched him, more bones would break. His body was bestial and powerful, but he couldn't bear such an intense onslaught. "Ah!" Feng Chen howled loudly and painfully. A terrifying jet-black light emerged from his body and burst into the skies. His blood seemed like it was boiling. He suddenly looked even more ferocious and bestial. "Get lost!" Lin Feng continued punching him over and over. Feng Chen kept trying to flap his wings to move, but couldn't. "Banner!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. His banner appeared in his hand, and at the same time he ran forwards and attacked Feng Chen with his banner's flames. At that moment, Feng Chen's qi started violently boiling in his body. He was already half dead. His body was soaked with blood and he seemed to be driven into madness. The strength of his blood was boiling chaotically and merging with his soul. A dazzling light appeared around his body. He felt like he was being burnt alive. He raised his head and saw Lin Feng above him. It was the flames from Lin Feng's banner. "You cherished the memory of your ancestor, but his glory isn't yours. Back then, Tian Feng was able to drink the blood of that beast, but you cannot even use your blood spirit properly. What gives you the right to cherish that memory? Since you cannot use your blood spirit, then give it to me," said Lin Feng slowly. His body moved along with his banner filled with flames, then it immediately enveloped Feng Chen's entire body. Feng Chen was imprisoned inside the banner in a flash. A terrifying inferno emerged and began to burn his body. "Ah!" Feng Chen gave a horrible shriek. He wanted to leave the banner, but he couldn't because the strength of the banner was too powerful. With his current strength, he couldn't escape it. He could only remain in that scorching inferno while his power was slowly absorbed. Roar! Lin Feng Dragon's spirit roared and moved towards the banner. It then immediately sucked the blood spirit from the banner and swallowed it. The banner was absorbing his body and qi while the dragon was swallowing his blood spirit. Besides, Lin Feng's soul was slowly driving Feng Chen's soul insane. He couldn't do anything anymore. The only thing he could do was to die. Since you cannot use your blood spirit, then give it to me. Those words resonated in everyone's mind. How unbelievable. At that moment, it was too shocking. They were stunned. Not only did Lin Feng want to win the battle, but he also wanted to absorb Feng Chen's blood spirit. He was burning Feng Chen's body alive and swallowing his blood spirit. It was so cruel. Lin Feng's spirit could immediately swallow Feng Chen's blood spirit. The banner had already neutralized his thunder fire. Lin Feng's actions were extremely cruel. He had only broken through to the third Xian Qi layer, but what about the future? After breaking through to the Tian Qi layer, he would become a frightening existence. Likey's note, I made a mistake on the previous chapters where it says, Great Competition of Shuiyu, it was supposed to be, Great Competition of Shuiyu. Shuiyu is the city where Lin Feng is at and Shuiyu is the bigger continent. Chapter 5:16, the end of Tian Feng. The crowd remained motionless, looking at Feng Chen's body being engulfed by flames inside the banner. Nobody said anything but their hearts were pounding. He was dead, the prince of Tian Feng had died. Soon, nothing would remain of him, his corporeal body was being engulfed in flames and his blood spirit was swallowed. The other people from Tian Feng were astonished, their hearts were racing, their prince had died. Almost all of the strongest cultivators brought from Tian Feng were dead. And they had all been killed by one person, Lin Feng. After a short period, the screams stopped, Lin Feng recalled his spirit and the banner began to shrink until it disappeared. Lin Feng looked exhausted, he was completely drained of energy. On the ground, the people from Tian Feng glanced at each other and immediately started moving back. They wanted to leave. Their prince was dead, the second envoy had died, even the third envoy had died. Their strongest cultivators had already lost their lives. They had no reason to stay anymore, it wasn't worth it. They had to leave as soon as possible, otherwise they might die too. Lin Feng coldly glanced at them. Where are you going? Don't you think that it's a bit late to think of leaving? Lin Feng immediately as he started running towards the people who were leaving. The 9 Haruka skill made 3,000 rotations through his body. Lin Feng immediately struck one of the escaping cultivators. It was the 4th envoy of Tian Feng. With his strength, he could have fought against Lin Feng in his exhausted state, but he didn't feel like fighting after watching the previous battles. He just wanted to escape with his life, but Lin Feng immediately attacked him and crushed his skull. What a miserable death. When the others saw that the 4th envoy had died, they had felt even more dispirited, they only wanted to escape. However, at that moment, many people who were hiding rushed out, as if everything was planned from the beginning. These people were all wearing black cloaks and holding spears in their hands. Their deadly energies were all extremely brutal. Without hesitation, they immediately attacked. A terrifying qi invaded the atmosphere, it was deadly qi. Those cultivators in black cloaks were attacking together. Very quickly, the people from Tian Feng all collapsed and the palace was filled with blood. Lin Feng stopped moving. Since other people were attacking, he just let them do the work. All those people from Tian Feng would die there. Lin Feng glanced at Duan Wuya, he looked calm and serene. He was looking at the cultivators in the black cloaks as they fought. He didn't prevent them from attacking and did nothing but watch. Lin Feng obviously understood that those assassins were Duan Wuya's servants. If Duan Wuya hadn't given them the order, they wouldn't have made a move. Duan Wuya wanted all the people from Tian Feng to die in Shuiyu. The ambassadors from the Dragon Mountain Empire also glanced at Duan Wuya in a deep and meaningful way. The second prince of Shuiyu was mysterious and cruel. When he saw that Feng Chen was dead, he just gave his faction the order to massacre everyone from Tian Feng. He was extremely cruel. He didn't want any of them to return to Tian Feng. How miserable. Almost all of the geniuses from Tian Feng had come with the ambassadors from the Dragon Mountain Empire. They hadn't thought that they would all die in Shuiyu. This time, the result was catastrophic for Tian Feng. The envoys were the most outstanding young cultivators of Tian Feng, and 6 of the 7 had died. The incredibly strong Prince Feng Chen had also died. Put their bodies away and clean everything, leave no trace. I don't want the bloody landscape to affect Mr. Ruo's mood. After all the people from Tian Feng died, Duan Wuye gave his servants the order to clean and tidy the location. In a flash, the corpses disappeared and the ground was cleaned as if nothing had occurred. After they disappeared, Duan Wuye looked at Ruolan Shan in a respectful way while smiling. Ruolan Shan remained silent, he didn't say anything, instead he was looking at Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng's eyes were closed. His chest was pounding and his qi was fluctuating violently. It seemed like he was trying to recover his strength. A moment before, he had used all his pure qi to unleash his Black Lotus and final attacks. After that, he had had to use his spirits and his physical strength to kill Feng Chen. Everything happened in a matter of moments. He had remained fearless while fighting, but he didn't have the power to continue fighting if he did not succeed. A moment after, Lin Feng's qi started to stabilize again and his breath grew steady. He then opened his eyes and looked around. Duan Wuye walked towards Lin Feng, smiling in a warm and friendly way. He then asked, Lin Feng, are you alright? I just used a lot of energy, it's nothing serious. Said Lin Feng in a low and deep voice while nodding. Go to Xianyes and have a good rest there. Tonight, we will eat at my palace. Said Duan Wuye with a particular smile. Lin Feng's eyes flashed and he immediately nodded, alright, I am going to Xianyes. Lin Feng needed time to rest. He had too many enemies in the city and had no more pure qi remaining to fight them. He was weak and only had his bodily strength, so he couldn't go outside. Coming across his enemies would be a catastrophe for him. He needed to recover, so going to Xianyes was a perfect idea. Alright. Said Duan Wuye while smiling and nodding. Lin Feng turned around and said to Ruolan Shan, please excuse me, Mr. Ruo. Go, young man, have a good rest. I will be waiting for you to recover. Replied Ruolan Shan while smiling at Lin Feng in a respectful way. It wasn't just that he needed Lin Feng to participate in the great competition of Shuiyu, he could see a great future ahead. If Lin Feng didn't die, he would surpass Ruolan Shan and would become a shining star. He had to keep walking down the path of cultivation and become stronger. Ruolan Shan was from Dragon Mountain, he had lots of things on mind. When he attached importance to a genius, he was never wrong. In his life, Ruolan Shan had seen many geniuses who eventually surpassed him. He respected those geniuses who could soar past him. In the continent of the 9 clouds, it was very normal to be surpassed by others. In the continent of the 9 clouds, people didn't necessarily respect elders, what they respected were strong cultivators. After that, Lin Feng left and went to Duan Xianyes' residence. She was playing the zither, and when she saw Lin Feng arrive, she was extremely happy. She immediately put her zither aside and ran towards Lin Feng, but quickly noticed that he looked deathly pale and tired. She frowned with worry. Lin Feng, what's wrong? What happened? Asked Duan Xianye while grabbing Lin Feng's hand. She was very worried. Nothing. I just killed Feng Chen and used too much energy to do so. Said Lin Feng while smiling and shaking his head. He then started caressing Duan Xianye's cheeks, which made a certain warmth invade his body. It felt very pleasant. In the continent of the 9 clouds, because women were cultivators, their skin was magnificent and pure. Women in the previous world were far from being able to compete with female cultivators who had purified their body with qi. They looked exquisite and delicate. It was actually the case for all cultivators, even men, but particularly women. Duan Xianye looked delicate and beautiful. Lin Feng, while caressing Duan Xianye's cheeks, couldn't help but pinch her cheek, which made her lower her head timidly. She remained silent. When Lin Feng saw that Duan Xianye looked timid, he smiled in an even more magnificent way. Duan Xinye's beautiful eyes and smile were more resplendent than the sun. She could easily calm Lin Feng. Not only was her beauty out of the ordinary but her heart was pure too. She was extremely enchanting, bewitching and fascinating. You killed the prince of Tianfeng, Feng Chen? Suddenly asked Duan Xinye while raising her head. She was just realizing what Lin Feng had just said. Indeed, he sent people to kill me so I couldn't let him off. What did my brother and the people from Dragon Mountain say? Your brother killed the others and the people from Dragon Mountain didn't say anything, said Lin Feng while smiling, which relieved Duan Xinye. When she saw that Lin Feng was covered with sweat and that his clothes were dirty, she couldn't help but say, Lin Feng, go to my private hot spring and have a bath. You need to rest. All right, said Lin Feng, whose eyes were twinkling. He was looking directly at Duan Xinye, which made her lower her head again. She didn't dare meet his eyes. That hot spring was the place where she bathed daily. She was a woman, it was an unwritten rule that women and men would not share bathing areas, but she was telling Lin Feng to bathe there. It meant that she felt closer to Lin Feng than before. But Duan Xinye's heart was Lin Feng's already. She didn't mind, even if she was shy. For Lin Feng, she was ready to give up her status of a princess. She grabbed Lin Feng's arm and snuggled up to him. Duan Xinye was caressing Lin Feng's arm. At that moment, the dignified Princess Duan Xinye was acting like a little bird. She looked cute and helpless, and her smile was resplendent. Chapter 517, Obscenities. Lin Feng was lying in the hot spring as the hot water caressed his body, making it feel extremely pleasant. There were many purity stones around the spring. The qi continuously penetrated into Lin Feng's body, which quickly filled his qi reserves. At that moment, Lin Feng's eyes were tightly closed. His cosmos-burning sun was surrounding his brightly reddened body. His body was diffusing a red light that was refracting on the water of the hot spring. It looked like a dreamland. What Lin Feng didn't know was that on his body, there was an extremely eye-catching sun pattern, and it was reflecting itself onto the water. At the same time, Lin Feng's incredible physical strength was also revolving through his body. Besides, apart from the physical strength, there was a scorching heat which was causing the water to evaporate unceasingly. The physical strength and the boiling water caused the air surrounding him to grow more turbulent. Time was passing slowly, and a terrifying physical strength continued flowing into Lin Feng's body. Something extremely strange was flowing within Lin Feng's veins and arteries. It seemed like the blood in his body was boiling. At the same time, a peculiar light started rotating in cycles. It was the 9 Haruka's skill rotating inside Lin Feng's body. The red lights quickly surrounded Lin Feng's body, and the 9 Haruka's rotations merged together. It was extremely strange. The water around him started boiling more rapidly. The entire atmosphere was filled with steam which contained a red light within. Duan Xinye, who was in her room, could sense the heat flowing from the hot spring. She was stupefied and felt the temperature drastically rise. It seemed like the air temperature had increased in an instant. Her beautiful and limpid eyes revealed a shocked expression. Wasn't Lin Feng in the hot spring? Why was it so hot? Her beautiful eyes wavered as she slowly walked towards the room where the hot spring was. She was slightly hesitant, but in the end she still entered the room. Duan Xinye entered the room and was stupefied. Was Lin Feng really in the water? At that moment, there was so much steam, but she could see a faintly discernible sun pattern. On Lin Feng's body and reflected on the water, there was the sun pattern which seemed to be spinning. There were 2 extremely powerful strengths which were rotating through Lin Feng's body. Duan Xinye was astonished and cried out in surprise. What kind of skill was Lin Feng practicing? What could cause him to look so strange? It seemed like he was practicing cultivation, but with the strength of several people at the same time. Duan Xinye calmly crouched on the edge of the hot spring and fixedly stared at Lin Feng. She was looking towards him the same way a woman would look at her husband. She wished that Lin Feng could always stay by her side, she would let him cultivate in peace and would be happy to be with him. How wonderful would that be? Lin Feng was absorbing all the qi inside the purity stones like a glutton, and they were slowly disappearing. The physical strength in Lin Feng's body gradually started rotating at a slower pace until Lin Feng finally opened his eyes. Sharp dazzling lights were twinkling in his eyes. A portion of the strength from that blood spirit was absorbed by my celestial Fang's spirit, while the other portion was injected into my body. But that blood spirit is not compatible with my blood, so I cannot use it. However, it was still very useful. It helped me rotate the 9 Haruka's skill. With its help I gained the strength of 3,800 rotations, thought Lin Feng while clenching his fist and emitting a cracking sound. Another 200 rotations and Lin Feng would have the strength of 4,000 rotations. He would easily be able to defeat cultivators of the 5th Xian Qi layer using his physical body. Lin Feng raised his head and saw Duan Xianyi. He then smiled and said, "You're peeping on me?" I just sensed that it was extremely hot here, so I came to check." "I wasn't peeping on you," said Duan Xianyi, whose cheeks had turned bright red. She would have lost face if she admitted that she was peeping on Lin Feng while he was bathing, but she realized that she had been peeping unconsciously. She never even considered that she was peeping on him. "You are calmly crouching there, so you've been here for a while, watching me. If that's not peeping, what it is?" When Lin Feng saw that Duan Xianyi was blushing, he couldn't help but tease her while laughing. Duan Xianyi's cheeks were even redder at that moment. She didn't know what to say. "Xianyi, don't you want to come and bathe with me?" said Lin Feng in a trembling voice. Duan Xianyi blinked and stared at Lin Feng with wide eyes. She immediately turned her head and ran away, her chest pounding violently. Lin Feng was so indecent. When Lin Feng saw Duan Xianyi ran away, he smiled. He stood up and his body felt very comfortable. Lin Feng climbed out of the hot spring, put some clothes on and headed to Duan Xianyi's room. At that moment, Duan Xianyi's face was still bright red. She looked cute and bewitching. Lin Feng noticed that Duan Xianyi didn't dare look him in the eyes. She obviously understood that Lin Feng was just making obscene jokes, but those kind of dirty jokes didn't make her unhappy. It was actually the opposite. She was delighted. She was even slightly tempted. "Xianyi, is it already evening?" asked Lin Feng. Duan Xianyi shook her head and said, "No, I still have time for a bath too. Then we can leave together towards Duanwu Mountain." "You're also going to bathe?" said Lin Feng while staring at Duan Xianyi and winking. Duan Xianyi was stupefied. That guy really enjoyed teasing her. "So what?" "Who said I can't?" said Duan Xianyi. "Of course you can, but a moment ago you were peeping on me, so I should also get to peep on you while you have a bath," said Lin Feng while smiling, which stupefied Duan Xianyi even more. Duan Xianyi was speechless. How come she had never noticed that Lin Feng was a pervert? "Well, wouldn't it be fair? Then you won't owe me anything for peeping on me," said Lin Feng while bursting into laughter. Duan Xianyi was stunned and her cheeks were burning. She then immediately ran away. Lin Feng was too much of a tease. When Lin Feng saw that Duan Xianyi felt uneasy, he smiled and shouted, "Xianyi, I'm waiting for you here." Duan Xianyi went into the hot water of the hot spring and didn't reply to Lin Feng. She didn't dare. Chapter 518, Who Will Have Her? At the top of the Duanwu mountain chain, in a magnificent pavilion under the stars, Duan Wuya was with the people from the Dragon Mountain Empire. Shockingly, they were also joined by Yu Tianming and Yu Tianchen. Lin Feng and Duan Xianyi quickly arrived arm in arm. When Yu Tianming saw that the two of them were so close, he looked surprised and upset. Yu Tianchen, on the other hand, looked furious. He was glaring at Lin Feng with overwhelming aggression. it looked like he wanted to attack Lin Feng where he stood. When Lin Feng arrived at the pavilion, he quickly noticed that Yu Tianchen was glaring at him. He only spared him a single glance, which made Yu Tianchen gnash his teeth in anger. Back at the lovesick forest, Yu Tianchen was introduced to Lin Feng as a young master, and Lin Feng was just a nobody at the Ling Qi lair with a little talent. Yu Tianchen used to despise him. It was also the first time that Lin Feng met Duan Xinyi. Yu Tianchen had always thought that nothing would ever happen between Lin Feng and Duan Xinyi because Lin Feng was a nobody and the princess was far above him. He didn't believe that Lin Feng had what it took to be with the princess. However, now, Lin Feng had broken through to the Xianqi lair, killed Chu Zhanpeng, destroyed the Haoyu sect and the Ice and Snow Mountain village. He had even annihilated the holy courtyard of Shuiyu. Even more shocking was that Lin Feng was the son of Yu Tianchen's aunt, Yu Menghe. In such a short time, Lin Feng had easily surpassed Yu Tianchen in cultivation and status. Lin Feng only needed to send a quick glacé at Yu Tianchen to silence him. He didn't even dare to look Lin Feng in the eyes. That's life, sometimes fate has cruel tricks in store for people. Things could change very quickly. Yu Tianchen had never thought that such a day would come. Lin Feng glanced at Yu Tianchen for 1 second, which immediately made him lower his head. Then, Lin Feng glanced at Yu Tianming. Yu Tianming was the second high official of Shuiyu. He was undoubtedly strong and had the blood spirit of the Yu clan. It was possible to consider him as Lin Feng's cousin. He could be seen as his senior. Yu Tianming had nothing against Lin Feng before, but at that moment, he wasn't looking at Lin Feng in a friendly way. Instead, he was looking at him with cold eyes, and he was also glancing at Duan Xinyi. After having a bath, Duan Xinyi had put on a long ceremonial cheongsam which was trailing across the ground. Her beautiful hair was floating on her shoulders. Even though she hadn't put any jewelry on, she still looked extremely beautiful. People didn't even dare look directly at her. She looked like a goddess. Yu Tianming wasn't the only one who was looking at Duan Xinyi. The people from Dragon Mountain were also looking at her. Some people looked at Duan Xinyi with admiration in their eyes, while some others had a strange expression on their face. Of course, they only glanced at her for a second, otherwise it would seem impolite. Besides, infuriating Lin Feng wouldn't be a good idea. Lin Feng, Xinyi, we were waiting for you. Hurry up and sit down, said Duan Wuya. Ruolan Shan and his friends were sitting at the main seats like last time. This time, the seat opposite of Duan Wuya was empty. It was for Duan Xinyi and Lin Feng. Lin Feng sat down on a seat that was the same as Duan Xinyi's. Duan Xinyi was a princess, so it was normal for her to sit on one of the most important seats as well. Besides, Lin Feng had come with Duan Xinyi. If he had sat on a seat lower than hers, it would have meant that the two of them were not equal. Lin Feng would, of course, never do that. Instead, he sat down on the same seat as the princess. All right, Mr. Ruo, Lin Feng and Xinyi are here too now, let's start, said Duan Wuya while smiling. Ruolan Shan slightly nodded and some servants immediately brought food and placed it on the redwood tables while bowing respectfully in front of each guest. Mr. Ruo, these days I haven't been a good host. Please forgive me. Let's forget about everything that happened and toast, said Duan Wuya politely while raising his glass. What are you talking about, Duan Wuya? You've been a great host, replied Ruolan Shan politely while toasting with him and downing his glass. He surprisingly adopted a carefree and unrestrained countenance. All right, everybody, we're all together, which is rare, let's toast, said Ruolan Shan while smiling and raising his glass. Immediately after, he looked at Duan Xinyi and Lin Feng and said, Lin Feng, you are extremely talented. Xinyi, you're as beautiful as a goddess. You are a perfect match. Let's toast. Thank you, Mr. Ruo, replied Lin Feng politely. Lin Feng and everybody else then raised their glasses while looking at Ruolan Shan. After downing their glasses, everybody put their glasses on the tables, however. Somebody interrupted, which surprised everybody. They turned their heads and saw the one making the strange sound, Yu Tianchen. Yu Tianchen was staring at Lin Feng furiously. He also looked extremely jealous. Lin Feng is just a shitty beggar. How could he be a good match for Duan Xinyi? My big brother Yu Tianming is the second high official, and on top of that there is a marriage agreement between the Yu clan and the Duan clan. My brother should be with her, not Lin Feng, said Yu Tianchen in an ice-cold tone. Actually, he was the one who liked Duan Xinyi and had always hoped to be with her, but after Yu Tianming returned, he threw away those dreams. The Yu clan wanted Yu Tianming to marry Duan Xinyi instead of him. But he had never thought that Lin Feng would cause trouble and engage in an intimate relationship with Duan Xinyi. He wouldn't have thought that Duan Xinyi would ever accept Lin Feng. Of course, Yu Tianchen was furious. He couldn't get her, so how could he allow Lin Feng to have her? Ruolan Shan was stupefied and looked at Yu Tianchen. Yu Tianchen was being rude. Immediately after, Ruolan Shan looked at Duan Wuya again, but Duan Wuya lowered his head and sipped his drink while remaining silent. He surprisingly said nothing. Ruolan Shan suddenly looked particularly interested. Was there a marriage agreement between Yu Tianming and Duan Xinyi? Lin Feng turned to Yu Tianchen and looked at him with piercing eyes. His eyes seemed as sharp as swords, which made Yu Tianchen gulp. A marriage agreement? Who decided on that? Said Lin Feng. Since he was with Duan Xinyi, how could he let other people tarnish her image? No matter what, Duan Xinyi belonged to Lin Feng. Even if there was a marriage agreement, Lin Feng didn't care. It is an agreement between my clan, the Yu clan, and the Duan clan. Our ancestors agreed on that marriage contract in order to keep our blood spirit pure and strengthen future generations. Besides, her status is extremely high. How could you be her match? Yu Tianchen's voice was cold. He wasn't lying though, everything he said was true. The Yu clan and the Duan clan had agreed on a marriage contract for their descendants. This caused Yu Menghe and Lin Hai a lot of problems, because the Duan clan wanted one of their clan to marry Yu Menghe. They were infuriated by the fact that she wanted to marry Lin Hai. That was also why the Duan clan tried everything to kill Lin Hai. The ancestors of the two clans had agreed on a marriage contract, in order to keep their bloodline pure. Also, the offspring with a mixture of two blood spirits would be even stronger than the past generations. Do you want to compare our blood and see whose is purer? Do you want to see which one of us has the stronger blood spirit? Said Lin Feng in cold tone. Yu Tianchen was stupefied. Indeed, Lin Feng also had the heavenly dragon spirit. He inherited it from Yu Menghe. In terms of bloodline and blood spirit, Lin Feng was much stronger than Yu Tianchen. Yu Tianchen couldn't compete with Lin Feng in any way. You're not a member of the Yu clan, said Yu Tianchen while pulling a long face. Lin Feng groaned coldly and said, I never said that I was a member of the Yu clan. You just said that the marriage contract was about keeping both bloodlines pure. Since that was the agreement, whether I am a member of the Yu clan or not has nothing to do with the marriage agreement. I have the purest blood in this generation of the Yu clan. If I am not a good match for Duan Xinyi, then who in the Yu clan is? Said Lin Feng aggressively. Who in the Yu clan could be a better match for Duan Xinyi? At that moment, Lin Feng had to struggle. If he didn't fight for himself and Duan Xinyi, everybody would think that Lin Feng was a loser, and it would be a humiliation for her. Therefore, Lin Feng had to act aggressively. At that moment, Yu Tianchen didn't know what to say and didn't even dare look at Lin Feng. What a joke! How could a marriage contract be more important than Xinye's wish? Besides, if all the people in the Yu clan are weak-willed like you, then what? Because of the marriage contract, Xinye should marry a loser. Is that what you mean? Added Lin Feng. His words were like swords. Yu Tianchen raised his hand and stared at Lin Feng. He then pointed at Lin Feng and said, "You. Stop that." Yu Tianchen hadn't even finished when Lin Feng shouted furiously while releasing a monstrous deadly energy which crashed into Yu Tianchen's arm. He was shaking from head to toe. His arm was projected backwards and he felt like he was suffocating. Chapter 519. Fighting over a woman. Yu Tianchen looked glum. He was pulling a long face and fixedly staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng had just shouted 2 words and Yu Tianchen was scared to death. His arm had even been propelled backwards. He had just lost a great deal of face. Lin Feng calmed himself and recalled his deadly energy back into his body. He then looked at Yu Tianchen in a mocking way. "I said that you were a weakling. I don't think that I'm wrong. You are trash," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. Yu Tianchen's face looked more and more hideous. He couldn't refute Lin Feng's words. He was scared to death. How could he deny Lin Feng's words? "Lin Feng, stop bullying Yu Tianchen," said Yu Tianming while glancing at Lin Feng. "You know perfectly who started this. I am bullying him because he tried to bully me first," said Lin Feng coldly. He then continued, "He's older than me and he's not as courageous as me. He's a waste of space. He calls me a beggar. Isn't that a humiliation to me? What is he even doing here? He shouldn't even be allowed to sit with us. He's a disgrace to the Yu clan," said Lin Feng, whose words were as sharp as needles. Yu Tianming and Yu Tianchen glanced at each other while remaining silent. Yu Tianchen was, indeed, older than Lin Feng, but he was lacking in every way. Lin Feng's cultivation was much higher, but surprisingly Yu Tianchen dared to insult and provoke Lin Feng. "Since it's that way, let me tell you something. There is really a marriage contract between Duan Xinyi and me. You two are too close. It's not good. You're tarnishing her image," said Yu Tianming, which stupefied Lin Feng. Lin Feng pulled a long face and said, "Who decided that you were going to marry Xinyi? Xinyi herself? Or your clan, the Yu clan? Tonight, I came here to propose her," said Yu Tianming while fixedly staring at Lin Feng. He had come to propose Duan Xinyi. Lin Feng looked ice cold and said, "Oh, is that so? And whom are you going to ask for Xinyi's hand?" "Of course, I cannot decide alone." Those days, the king never showed himself. The crown prince didn't care about what happened outside either. The second prince and Xinyi are siblings, so he is the one who has the authority when the king is not here. I came here to ask the second prince for Xinyi's hand. My grandfather, the head of the Yu clan, will come to ask as well. He will come tonight on the same behalf," said Yu Tianming slowly, which made Lin Feng's pupils shrink. He looked puzzled and then looked at Duan Wuya. It seemed like Duan Wuya had asked Lin Feng to bring Duan Xinyi along with him for some reason, and it was precisely to find a solution to his problems, to find a husband for Duan Xinyi. Could Duan Wuya accept their marriage contract? If Xinyi doesn't agree, who else could? Said Lin Feng in an ice-cold tone. I will never accept that marriage contract. My brother won't either, said Duan Xinyi while looking at Duan Wuya and hoping that he would support her. She, of course, knew of the marriage agreement between the Yu clan and the Duan clan, but she only had Lin Feng in her heart. No matter what, she would never want to marry Yu Tianming. Even if the Duan clan accepted the marriage, she wouldn't. Princess, why talk so hastily? Yu Tianming is a genius. He is an experienced and talented cultivator. He's the second high official. He is a perfect match for you, unlike the other one. Said a loud voice at that moment. It came from far away in the distance, but that person was approaching. Immediately after, at the foot of the Duanwu mountain, a silhouette appeared and was slowly approaching. His hair was extremely white. It was the head of the Yu clan, Yu Qingshan. Yu Qingshan then arrived in front of the pavilion. He nodded at Ruolan Shan and said, Ruolan Shan, Your Excellency, I am disturbing your celebration, please don't be offended. There is absolutely no problem, these are your personal matters. Said Ruolan Shan. He wasn't offended, his voice sounded calm. Yuqing Shan slightly nodded and immediately looked at Duan Wuya. Second Prince, Your Highness, there is a marriage contract between Yu Tianming and Duan Xinyi, our ancestors decided on it, you know better than anyone else. Besides, I have personally come here to propose the marriage alliance. Your Highness also knows that Yu Tianming is my grandson and he has inherited our blood spirit. He has extremely high natural abilities and cultivates diligently. He is 23, which is a perfect age to marry the princess. Besides, the princess is now a grown woman as well. She is beautiful and Yu Tianming loves her, so I came here to propose a marriage. I hope that you will not blame me, I also hope that you will respect our ancestors' agreement and accept the proposal of Yu Tianming and Duan Xinyi's union. Said Yuqing Shan with assurance and composure. With those reasons, Duan Wuya had no reason to refuse the marriage. Duan Wuya raised his head and glanced at Lin Feng, he then slightly smiled and said, Yuqing Shan, please sit down first, let's take our time with such matters. No, it's not necessary Yuqing Shan, just want to respect our ancestors' agreement. You only need to say, yes, and I'll be satisfied. I will then immediately leave and prepare for the wedding ceremony. Said Yuqing Shan while forcing Duan Wuya to give his answer. It seemed like there was no choice, if Duan Wuya didn't reply, it would be the same as violating their ancestors' agreement. It would mean that Duan Wuya didn't respect their ancestors. All the people involved were of high status and everybody could understand what Yuqing Shan meant, so they were all looking at Duan Wuya and were curious to see his reply. Yuqing Shan, I, of course, have no objections but I only want my sister to accept, if she does, you can go and prepare the wedding ceremony. Said Duan Wuya while smiling. He immediately refused the responsibility and shifted it over to Duan Xinyi. The crowd was stupefied. Duan Wuya was really smart, Yu Tianming had first come to put pressure on him, he couldn't refuse but if he had accepted, it would have come down to considering Duan Xinyi as an object for trade. What about Lin Feng? So Duan Wuya was giving Duan Xinyi the chance to decide for herself. Actually, Duan Xinyi didn't even need to say anything, everybody knew that she wouldn't accept. As expected, after Duan Wuya spoke, Yuqing Shan continued, Princess, Your Highness, you are young, getting married is a very important event in your life, of course, your marriage has to be decided by your elders, and Duan Wuya is your brother so he can substitute your father and decide to honor the agreement by himself. I cannot decide all by myself, it's too important of a matter. If my sister agrees, I will have no objection, as I just said. Said Duan Wuya trying to evade again. He didn't directly agree and was remaining neutral. Wuya, why are you wasting time? Said Yuqing Shan, he couldn't miss this chance. Besides, by looking at Duan Xinyi sitting with Lin Feng, he knew that if he asked her, she wouldn't accept even if he asked her, Duan Wuya would have escaped all responsibility. He's refusing, could it be that you don't understand? Said Lin Feng at that moment while putting his glass on the table with a heavy clout. He was looking at Yuqing Shan with cold eyes. Yuqing Shan was his grandfather, by blood. Yuqing Shan was also Yu Tianming's grandfather, by blood. But at that moment, he was helping Yu Tianming, his grandson, to steal Lin Feng's, his other grandson's woman. It sounded insane but it was really happening. Humph. Yuqing Shan frowned and glanced at Lin Feng, he looked upset, he then said, When did we ask you for your opinion? You're talking about my future wife, I, of course, have the right to express myself. You came here to propose a marriage alliance, I can also ask my mother to come and propose a marriage alliance. At that moment, what will you do? Said Lin Feng in an ice-cold tone. If Yu Menghe came to propose a marriage alliance, the situation would become chaotic. It would make Yuqing Shan lose face. When Duan Xinyi heard how aggressive Lin Feng was being, she smiled. Besides, he was already admitting that she was his future wife. You really want trouble? Sending your grandson here to fight for her is useless, said Lin Feng in the tone of a joke while insisting on the word grandson. All right. All right. You really have the same character as Yu Menghe, like mother like son, said Yu Qingshan. He didn't look angry at all. He then looked at Duan Wuya and said, Wuya, Yu Qingshan, want to hear one sentence. Wuya, would you tell me if you are going to honor our ancestors' agreement or not? Chapter 520, Poison. Wuya, tell me if you are going to honor our ancestors' agreement or not, said Yu Qingshan firmly. Duan Wuya smiled wryly and said, Yu Qingshan, I have a great deal of esteem for you and hold you in admiration. Yu Tianming is the second high official and I admire him too, but my sister's wedding is such an important matter that I cannot speak hastily. That is why I ask you to sit down and let me think, and then let me talk to her. What do you think? No need. Since it's that way, I will just stand here and wait for your answer. I just want to say that I hope you will remember our ancestors' words, said Yu Qingshan. He wasn't giving Duan Wuya any margin to think, he was just waiting for a direct and immediate answer, but it was impossible. Yu Qingshan, of course, was convinced that Duan Wuya wouldn't refuse because when he was mentioning their ancestors' agreement, Duan Wuya never shook his head or denied it. Therefore, Yu Qingshan wasn't worried. He had just been putting pressure on Duan Wuya, but knew it would go his way. Now, he just wanted to see what Duan Wuya would say to Duan Xinyi, and was expecting to hear a positive answer. Duan Wuya smiled and looked at Duan Xinyi. Sister, you understand what Yu Qingshan said. Tian Ming is his grandson, he is talented and extremely strong, he is the second high official. What do you think about the marriage alliance? Asked Duan Wuya to Duan Xinyi. Everybody was speechless. At that moment, Duan Xinyi was sitting with Lin Feng. Asking her was an exaggeration, how could she accept? Duan Xinyi's lips were shaking, she wanted to say something but Duan Wuya interrupted her again. Lin Feng, since my sister isn't saying anything, which I can understand, I want to ask you, what do you think about this? The guests were stupefied and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was the crucial element at that moment. After all, he was with her. Besides, Yu Qingshan was his grandfather. Lin Feng was related to all parties. At that moment, Duan Xinyi, just like everybody else, was looking at Lin Feng. She wanted to hear what Lin Feng would say to Duan Wuya. Lin Feng remained silent for a few seconds and replied, while glancing at Yu Qingshan, Xinyi is mine. Lin Feng's voice sounded cold. Of course, Lin Feng had to prove that he was determined, he couldn't afford to be hesitant and irresolute. He had to show that he was ready to do anything to keep her. Since he had accepted her, he had to fight. He couldn't tolerate the fact that someone else was trying to steal his woman. He didn't need to talk too much though, Lin Feng's opinion was clear enough. Duan Xinyi was his woman, so that immediately made an alliance between Yu Tianming and Duan Xinyi impossible. Lin Feng's tone of speech was firm and everyone felt their hearts race. Lin Feng was so aggressive and brave. In front of the second prince, in front of Yu Qingshan, he dared say that Duan Xinyi was his woman. That sentence was filled with courage. It wasn't that easy to say something like that, especially under such a heavy pressure. When Duan Xinyi heard Lin Feng's simple sentence, she was filled with tenacity, as a happy and resplendent smile appeared. She then moved closer to Lin Feng and grabbed his arm, so that everybody could see. Lin Feng didn't care about them, so Duan Xinyi cared even less about them. Besides, Lin Feng couldn't be the one to take all the pressure. Many people felt envious and jealous when they saw how close Lin Feng and Duan Xinyi were, especially Yu Tianchen. His face was particularly glum. Yu Tianming was also pulling a long face. Duan Xinyi knew about the marriage agreement but was still so close to Lin Feng. Besides, in front of everyone, she was humiliating Yu Tianming. Yu Qingshan was staring at Lin Feng, his grandson. He sighed. He wasn't enjoying this situation. He was trying to steal a woman from his grandson to give it to his other grandson, but it was for the Yu clan, so he had no choice. Everybody was silent, including Duan Wuya. Everybody remained silent for a long time until suddenly Duan Wuya broke that silence. Xinyi, are you all right? The crowd was astonished and looked at Duan Xinyi. At that moment, her face was turning red, including her forehead. She looked sick. Huh? What's going on? Many people were astonished. Duan Xinyi looked perfectly well a moment before, there had been no oddity at all, but suddenly she looked extremely red and sick. It was very unusual. Xinyi, what's wrong with you? Asked Lin Feng when he noticed Duan Xinyi's redness. Cultivators had a very strong body, especially as their cultivation level increased. After breaking through to the Ling Qi layer, getting sick was almost impossible, especially for no reason. Even though Duan Xinyi's cultivation level wasn't that high, she had still broken through to the Ling Qi layer a long time ago. Nothing could happen to her naturally. There were only two reasons: someone had poisoned her or she had accidentally poisoned herself. Because of that, Lin Feng was also feeling a bit nervous. It's alright, I just feel hot and dry, I need to rest for a while and I'll be fine, said Duan Xinyi while forcing a smile and trying to control herself to look normal as her face turned redder and redder. It seemed like the blood in her veins was boiling and drying up. Lin Feng touched Duan Xinyi's forehead to check her temperature. He started shaking from head to toe. She had an extremely high fever. Her forehead was burning, she was as hot as burning flames. Something is wrong, Xinyi, what's wrong? Are you sure you're not feeling unwell? Said Lin Feng while looking extremely anxious. Cultivators never had health problems, if they did, it was usually extremely serious. Duan Xinyi remained silent for a while and then said to Lin Feng in a low voice, Lin Feng, I am too hot. Hot? Lin Feng was surprised. Immediately after, Duan Wuya came to check Duan Xinyi as well. He put his hand on her wrist and checked her pulse. He was astonished. Her pulse was insane. Lin Feng, what did you do to Xinyi? Shouted Duan Wuya furiously, which astonished Lin Feng. What had he done to Duan Xinyi? How could he ever do anything to her? The crowd was astonished too. They had never expected Duan Wuya to suddenly grow furious at Lin Feng. There had never been a problem between them, they had always been on friendly terms. Even when Lin Feng was weak, Duan Wuya protected him and even conferred him the title of Marquis, and he was even the one who had given him the fief of Yangzhou. You should rather say, what's wrong with her, why is she sick? Said Lin Feng in a cold dismissal. He was upset. Xinyi, she. Duan Wuya couldn't even talk anymore, he was stuttering. He then added in an ice-cold tone, she's been with you all day, and after Yu Qingshan arrived, she suddenly became ill, you gave her something, you must tell me the truth. Gave her something? The crowd was astonished. At that moment, Duan Xinyi was firmly holding Lin Feng's arm. Her face was extremely red and her vision was blurry. People were shaking from head to toe and some were actually aroused by Duan Xinyi's face. They had obscene ideas. Gave her something? Duan Wuya dared say that. The crowd was shaking and suddenly thought of the only possibility. Someone had secretly given Duan Xinyi a pill. Besides, it was an extremely poisonous one. That was such an evil plot though, that person had probably calculated everything clearly, so the effects of the pill would start after Yu Qingshan's arrival. No wonder Duan Wuya was furious at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, my body is so hot, said Duan Xinyi while climbing onto Lin Feng. Her voice was seductive. When Lin Feng heard Duan Wuya, he obviously understood what was going on. Lin Feng's face, in a flash, turned ice cold. Surprisingly, someone had done such an evil and obscene thing to Duan Xinyi. Chapter 521, Get Lost. Lin Feng was furious, his face was ice cold and he was staring at the crowd. Duan Xinyi had been with him all the time, including the banquet, no wonder Duan Wuya thought that it was Lin Feng. If somebody had given a pill to Duan Xinyi, then it was during the banquet, and that person had done it very discreetly, without being noticed. Lin Feng, who was next to Duan Xinyi and hadn't even noticed it. Lin Feng, you're really shameless, shouted Yu Tianming furiously while standing up and staring at Lin Feng. You surprisingly use such methods to obtain the princess. How shameless. I've never seen such a shameless person in my entire life. Everybody was astonished and staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was most likely the suspect. The first reason was that Duan Xinyi had been with Lin Feng the entire day and Duan Xinyi would never poison herself. The second reason was that Yu Qingshan had come to propose a marriage alliance between Yu Tianming and Duan Xinyi, so that would ruin Lin Feng and Duan Xinyi's romance. So, Lin Feng, infuriated, had probably secretly given her an aphrodisiac to keep her. Everything was pointing to Lin Feng. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng, which made his facial expression grow even colder. Yu Qingshan had come to propose a marriage alliance between Duan Xinyi and Yu Tianming. And this was happening, Lin Feng hadn't been vigilant enough. He glanced at the crowd in an ice-cold way but couldn't figure out a suspect. It seemed like nobody had a reason to do such a horrible thing. However, there was no doubt that Duan Xinyi had taken an aphrodisiac poison. Your Highness, the most pressing matter of the moment is to save Xinyi, we need to find a solution, said Lin Feng. He wasn't giving him face either. Saving Duan Xinyi was the most important thing, but Duan Wuya was blaming him. You think that I don't know that Xinyi's blood vessels are burning? You better save her, Lin Feng. If you're the one who poisoned her, it's the end for you, said Duan Wuya. He didn't sound as warm and friendly as before, he looked extremely malicious and was staring at Lin Feng with an evil glare. Lin Feng was stupefied, he also touched Duan Xinyi, sending his soul into her body. As expected, there was a terrifying qi burning Duan Xinyi's body and internal organs. A fire was burning in her body. At that moment, Duan Xinyi was in a state of delirium, and her vision was blurry. She was just firmly holding Lin Feng and blowing a warm air into Lin Feng's ear. Lin Feng, save me. Lin Feng shivered and his body started shaking. Save her. There was only one solution for the poison, to have intercourse. Lin Feng looked puzzled and ferocious at the same time, he didn't feel like taking her under such circumstances. Besides, everybody thought that he was the one who had given her the poison. But if he didn't save Duan Xinyi, there would be two possibilities. She would die, burned by the internal fire. Or somebody else would save her. In both cases, he would lose Duan Xinyi. He couldn't let Duan Xinyi die and he didn't want anyone else to save Duan Xinyi. I'm leaving with Xinyi, said Lin Feng while gnashing his teeth. He then carried her and stood up, he looked resolute. There was no other solution. He had to save her. He was convinced that Duan Xinyi would forgive him. When the crowd heard Lin Feng, they were gobsmacked. Lin Feng wanted to leave. Who knew what Lin Feng would do if he left? Many people looked extremely upset. Did Lin Feng think that he was going to take Duan Xinyi if she was left like that? Put her down, said Yu Tianming in an ice-cold tone. His silhouette flickered and he immediately landed in front of Lin Feng. His facial expression was ice-cold and he was releasing an ice-cold energy. He was obstructing Lin Feng's path. Lin Feng raised his hand and looked at Yu Tianming evilly. Lin Feng, I can't stand it anymore. said Duan Xinyi in a soft voice which made Lin Feng feel even more nervous. Boom! Lin Feng took a step forwards and released a monstrous deadly energy. It was ice cold as well. Get lost! Boom! Lin Feng took another step and wanted to leave the pavilion. Duan Xinyi couldn't wait anymore. He couldn't let anything happen to her. A terrifying deadly sword energy moved towards Yu Tianming and made his robes flutter violently. However, Yu Tianming didn't move. Like a mountain, he remained motionless. How could he let Lin Feng leave? Even though he didn't care about fame and glory, Lin Feng was leaving with the woman whom he had a marriage contract with. Besides, Lin Feng was leaving to have sex with Duan Xinyi. How could he accept such a humiliation? Maybe Duan Xinyi would become his wife in the future. If such a thing happened, Duan Xinyi and Yu Tianming would be humiliated. Lin Feng's poison was really sly, vicious and malicious. Put the princess down, said Yu Tianming in a firm tone. He then releasing a piercingly cold qi. Boom! Another rumbling sound filled the air. Lin Feng jumped up in the air and the ceiling of the pavilion immediately broke and huge blocks of stone flew in every direction. Everybody under the pavilion started moving too. Where are you going? Said Yu Qingshan in an ice-cold tone. He then transformed into a light beam and arrived in front of Lin Feng, obstructing the way. His white hair was fluttering in the wind. Immediately after, Yu Tianming also arrived and blocked the way while shouting, "Put the princess down." He couldn't let Lin Feng leave with the princess. Lin Feng looked at them. They were stronger than him, especially Yu Qingshan. Even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to escape. You really want to prevent me from leaving? Said Lin Feng while looking at Yu Qingshan coldly. Yu Qingshan's facial muscles twitched, and he then nodded frenetically. Put the princess down. And after that? Said Lin Feng in an angry tone. Let Tianming go with her. Tianming and the princess have a marriage agreement. After that, everything will be fine. She will become Yu Tianming's wife and the marriage contract will be honored. Grandpa! Suddenly shouted Lin Feng, which made Yu Qingshan shake. He looked puzzled and stunned, but immediately after he looked firm and determined again. Ha 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 ha. Lin Feng suddenly started laughing like a madman. His grandfather wanted to steal his woman and give it to his cousin. How ridiculous. The people on the ground raised their heads and looked at the four silhouettes. What was going on? Yu Qingshan and Yu Tianming were blocking the way. Lin Feng would be forced to put Duan Xinyi down. He couldn't leave with her. Duan Xinyi would become Yu Tianming's wife, and it was thanks to Lin Feng's poison. Duan Xinyi and Yu Tianming would then live happily ever after. Lin Feng lowered his head and looked at Duan Xinyi's red face. The fire was still burning inside her body. But Lin Feng was holding her in his arms and had the feeling that he needed to protect her. Duan Xinyi couldn't wait. Get lost! Shouted Lin Feng in an evil way which stupefied Yu Qingshan. Lin Feng was telling him to get lost? No matter what, he was Lin Feng's grandfather. Lin Feng's mother was his daughter, and even she had never dared to say such a thing. But immediately after, Yu Qingshan and Yu Tianming saw Lin Feng's eyes, which looked demonic and evil. His two dark eyes were filled with an evil energy. He was absolutely emotionless and expressionless. When Yu Qingshan and Yu Tianming saw those eyes, they couldn't help but shake. His eyes were too terrifying, too cold. Their spirits were shaking. Chapter 522, Intercourse. Lin Feng's eyes were emotionless, as if he was looking down on everyone. Yu Qingshan and Yu Tianming were staring at those eyes and their hearts started racing, but they couldn't help but to stare deeper into the void. They were still obstructing Lin Feng's path. Lin Feng couldn't leave with Duan Xinyi, he couldn't. Their lips were twitching when they heard Lin Feng say something. Get lost! Get lost! Get lost! Lin Feng had just shouted and his voice was echoed in the atmosphere. It seemed like an evil energy was brushing across their bodies. Yu Shan was still fixedly staring at Lin Feng, but at that moment, he could sense an evil qi emerging out from Lin Feng's body, a terrifying evil qi. In Lin Feng's eyes, there was a terrifying evil energy. At that moment, it seemed like a sword, an evil sword, was unsheathing itself inside Lin Feng's eyes. If anyone blocked his path any longer, he would slaughter them. The crowd was looking at Lin Feng and noticed how infuriated he seemed. How scary. At that moment, Lin Feng looked like he was determined to leave, nobody could stop him. He looked like a demon, he would massacre anyone who tried to stop him. When Yu Tianming saw that terrifying evil energy, he couldn't help but feel terrified. Indeed, no one was surprised, Lin Feng was terrifying. That evil qi was filled with a demonic intent, nobody could prevent Lin Feng from leaving. That terrifying evil energy was penetrating deeper into Lin Feng's heart. At that moment, Yu Tianming felt ridiculous. He knew that if he kept obstructing Lin Feng's way, Lin Feng would kill him. Yu Tianming wasn't the only one who had that feeling, Yu Shan felt the same. If they kept preventing him from leaving, Lin Feng would slaughter them mercilessly. That sensation was astonishing and terrifying. It's him, it's definitely him, whispered Yu Shan. He could see his own evil shape in Lin Feng's eyes. How terrifying, that person now resided in Lin Feng. Yu Shan was shaking from head to toe and his thoughts grew chaotic. He was in Lin Feng's body. This is terrible, a catastrophe, thought Yu Shan while looking at the sky. He had failed with Yu Menghe and at this moment he would fail with Lin Feng as well, Lin Feng would leave with Duan Xinyi. The same thing was happening again. Nobody could stop Lin Feng anymore. Lin Feng had become an insane demon, one more push and he would allow the demon to invade his heart, then he would bathe the world in blood. Tianming, let him leave, said Yu Shan while sighing and dragging Yu Tianming's arm. He didn't want to prevent Lin Feng from leaving any longer. This time it would be different. The evil swords, that's the qi from the evil swords, said Yu Shan. He could see the evil swords in Lin Feng's eyes. He knew that Lin Feng was there when the evil swords were released at Mount Sword. He had actually been the first one to discover it, it made perfect sense. Initially, the 9 sword mountains exploded and the seal was broken because the evil swords were attracted by Lin Feng. They hadn't left for other vessels, they had all surprisingly chose Lin Feng's body, they could emerge from his body at any time. If Yu Tianming and Yu Shan kept obstructing his path, Lin Feng would be merciless and heartless. Lin Feng would let the evil swords take control of his body and slaughter everybody. Because he wanted to save Duan Xinyi, the pure and precious princess, there was no telling how far Lin Feng he would go when he was really infuriated. Yu Tianming's heart was pounding violently, Yu Shan was pulling his arm. Let him go. He was surprisingly opening the way. Lin Feng was going to leave with the princess. The princess with whom Yu Tianming had a marriage agreement. And Lin Feng would have intercourse with her. When Yu Tianming thought about it, his eyes suddenly grew particularly cold. In fact, from Lin Feng, he could also sense the terrifying evil energy emerging from him. But seeing Lin Feng leave with the princess was like 1,000 blades stabbing his chest, it was extremely painful. Yu Tianming felt like his heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces. The crowd was also looking at them and they were stupefied. Lin Feng was demonic at that moment, they weren't near to him but they could still sense his terrifying evil qi. They knew that if Yu Tianming and Yu Shan remained in Lin Feng's way, the evil energy would take over and he would attack to kill his cousin and his grandfather. Lin Feng glanced at Yu Shan and Yu Tianming and said in an ice-cold tone, "If you disturb me while I save Xinyi, I will kill you, I don't give a damn who you are." After that, Lin Feng left at full speed. In a flash, he disappeared from their field of vision. Phew! Everybody took a deep breath, the pressure had finally disappeared. When Lin Feng was there, they all felt like they were suffocating. Duan Wuya, Yu Qing Shan, Yu Tianming and the others were all looking at Lin Feng as he disappeared into the horizon, their eyes were all revealing different feelings and emotions. After Lin Feng left with Duan Xianyi, he moved at an inconceivable speed. At that moment, her body was scorching hot, just like a bare flame, the ambient temperature was terrifying. Besides, at that moment, Duan Xianyi seemed like she had gone insane, she was firmly holding onto Lin Feng with her legs wrapped around Lin Feng's waist as she was panting lightly. She looked intoxicated. She looked like she was possessed, but she was extremely seductive. We have arrived. Lin Feng saw Duan Xianyi's residence in the forest. He dashed through the air and moved down to the ground. The women who usually guarded the entrance didn't obstruct him, so Lin Feng immediately entered her residence. At that moment, many silhouettes appeared, it was the women who guarded the entrance of Duan Xianyi's palace. They noticed that something had happened. Don't let anyone come within even of a half step of this location. It's a matter of life and death, said Lin Feng, whose voice filled the air. The women were stupefied, they glanced at each other and nodded. Their silhouettes flickered and disappeared. That voice was Lin Feng's voice, and those women knew how important Lin Feng was to the princess. Since Lin Feng was talking with such urgency, it meant that the princess might be in danger, they obviously obeyed his commands. Lin Feng closed the door of the palace and rushed into Duan Xianyi's bedroom. Lin Feng put Duan Xianyi on the bed, her eyes looked bewitching. Her body was entirely red and she kept grabbing at her clothes and removing them slowly. Her eyes were filled with endless heat. The fire in her body was getting more intense. Her red face seemed like it was going to explode. Lin Feng, I can't stand it anymore, I need you, said Duan Xianyi while sliding her dress down her body. Lin Feng looked at her slim and beautiful arms, her skin was so delicate. She was extremely beautiful and she was seducing Lin Feng. While talking, her bewitching fragrance filled the air, Lin Feng felt like temptation was everywhere. Lin Feng wasn't a monk, he was an ordinary man and he was still a virgin. A beautiful woman such as the princess was half naked in front of him, she was touching his neck with her hands and whispering that she needed him, how could Lin Feng remain indifferent? He wasn't a stone without emotions and desires. Lin Feng's breathing was rapid, he could see one of her hands on his neck and another one on her body, she was still removing her clothes, her beautiful breasts were slowly revealed and Lin Feng felt himself bewitched. Lin Feng, hurry. Duan Xianyi's voice made Lin Feng feel like he was in a fantasy, he leant towards Duan Xianyi, his head felt like it was going to explode, he was flushed red, he felt like he was going to lose consciousness. Lin Feng lowered his head and put his hand on Duan Xianyi's soft skin, he then started kissing her slowly, her lips, her shoulders, each and every part of her body. Finally, after the flames of passion were ignited, Lin Feng groaned violently as Duan Xianyi moaned gently. Their bodies had become one. They were both intoxicated with passion. Their bodies were in perfect fusion and as the bed started to move, Duan Xianyi's room had become a den of lust. Chapter 523, Situation. After the surge of passion, Lin Feng and Duan Xianyi were laying on the bed and remaining silent. The fire in Duan Xianyi's body wasn't harmful anymore, instead, flames of passion were burning in her heart. Drops of sweat covered her body, one glance at her would have sufficed to arouse any man. Lin Feng was caressing Duan Xianyi's skin with his fingers. The flames of desire were still burning in his heart. They had tasted the forbidden fruit. Duan Xianyi, because of the extremely strong effects of the poison, had required a long session of passionate lovemaking. Because Lin Feng had broken through to the Xian Qi layer and had an extremely strong body, he was able to nullify the poison. Duan Xianyi had experienced a pleasure which had gone beyond expectations. At that moment, Duan Xinyi moved her head and placed it on Lin Feng's chest. She was acting extremely shy, she couldn't even look at Lin Feng anymore. Lin Feng hugged Duan Xinyi, his eyes were filled with endless warmth and affection. Xinyi, are you angry at me? Asked Lin Feng suddenly. After all of this had happened, not because Duan Xinyi and Lin Feng wanted it, they had been forced into the situation. It was unexpected. Duan Xinyi was rubbing her head against Lin Feng's chest and shaking her head. How could she be angry at Lin Feng? It had been unexpected indeed, but she had been Lin Feng's woman for a while, besides, Lin Feng did it to save her. If Lin Feng hadn't been there, she would have been forced to marry Yu Tianming and would have slept with him. She didn't even want to think about that. They all think that I'm the one who gave you the poison, do you think so too? Asked Lin Feng in a low voice. Duan Xinyi raised her head and looked at Lin Feng. Her face was still red but she still looked gorgeous. I'm not saying that it's impossible that you did, but even if you did, I was willing. Said Duan Xinyi in a soft voice. Her eyes were filled with a deep and meaningful look. Lin Feng sighed and held her tightly in his arms. With such a woman, he would only be happy. If Meng Qing didn't exist, maybe Lin Feng would have only loved Duan Xinyi. She was so delicate, subtle and had a high social status, she also wasn't conceited. She was so pure and innocent. Lin Feng, will you marry me? Asked Duan Xinyi, her voice was charming. Lin Feng was stupefied, he now had to bear a huge responsibility. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked you. Said Duan Xinyi when she saw that Lin Feng remained silent. Her voice was trembling and it looked like tears were about to appear in her eyes. Lin Feng's heart was extremely painful when he heard her. He had already been with Duan Xinyi and her love for him was still unconditional to the extent that she was even apologizing for asking. Duan Xinyi was a princess. And on top of that, everybody would know what had happened soon. If he didn't marry Duan Xinyi, what would people think of her? I will. Said Lin Feng while tightly hugging her. He looked nervous. How could Lin Feng let her down? Duan Xinyi had sacrificed everything for him. Lin Feng got up and sat while making Duan Xinyi sit up. Then Lin Feng stood up and carried her to the hot spring. This made her blush. She was going to have a bath with Lin Feng, she was even more embarrassed. Early in the morning, the sun was shining upon the valley and the streams. In the forest, many silhouettes appeared. Some looked glum and others looked furious. There were Duan Wuya, Yu Tianming, and some guards wearing black cloaks. They were all staring at the valley. They all knew what had happened in Duan Xinyi's palace during the night. They all knew the details, but they wished they didn't know. Knowing about it gave them the feeling that insects were nibbling their face from the inside. They couldn't bear that thought, especially Yu Tianming. He had a marriage agreement with her, he didn't want his future wife to have a fling with another man. How could he be happy about it? He looked extremely glum. In a distant place in the forest, there were also many silhouettes, they all looked furious. They were all the young men who had fallen in love with the princess, they were infuriated. They all knew that Lin Feng had sullied the princess, they were enraged, but also jealous and envious. Lin Feng was really abominable, he had done everything in his power to obtain the princess. Get lost! Shouted Duan Wuya in an ice-cold way. Those young men saw Duan Wuya turn and glare at them, they kept quiet out of fear. They could sense Duan Wuya's deadly energy. Many people started running and immediately left the scene. They didn't dare stay. At that moment, Duan Wuya was furious. Everybody knew that the princess wasn't a virgin anymore, that was a humiliation for the imperial family and for Duan Xinyi. How could Duan Wuya tolerate such a thing? After all of those people left, the forest was calm again. There was only the sound of the rustling leaves and of the pitter-patter of water in the streams. It felt calm and serene, but Duan Wuya and Yu Tianming didn't feel like enjoying the landscape, they were only staring at Duan Xinye's residence. They didn't go and enter by force, they also didn't shout angrily. After all, Lin Feng wasn't alone inside, Duan Xinye was also in there. After a short while, they heard some steps which made them feel even more tense. They looked at the residence and saw two silhouettes slowly emerge. Lin Feng and Duan Xinye. At that moment, they had already changed into new clothes. Lin Feng was wearing a new set of clothes and Duan Xinye seemed to have returned to normal, she had completely recovered. She was wearing a beautiful Chang Pao and her face looked different, one could see she had become a real woman. She looked even more attractive. Lin Feng looked full of vitality. He looked particularly handsome at that moment. That made Yu Tianming's face look even more glum, he was gnashing his teeth. When he saw that the two were holding hands, he felt like his anger was about to burst out. "Brother!" shouted Duan Xinye at Duan Wuya in a soft and timid voice. "Xinye, go back inside. I need to talk to him," said Duan Wuya while coldly staring at Lin Feng. "Don't, brother, don't blame him. It's not his fault, Lin Feng is innocent." "It's my fault," said Duan Xinye while defending Lin Feng. If Duan Wuya accused Lin Feng of giving her the poison and taking advantage of the princess, it would be a huge problem. "Go back inside," repeated Duan Wuya, which made Duan Xinye look tense. Lin Feng firmly squeezed on Duan Xinye's hand, smiled and said, "Xinye, go back it. There won't be any problems." Duan Xinye looked at Lin Feng and nodded, then she looked at Duan Wuya and said, "Brother, don't make things difficult for Lin Feng." Then she went back into her residence. Duan Wuya was staring at Lin Feng, he didn't say anything but released an extremely oppressive qi. Apart from Duan Wuya, those strong cultivators in black clothes and Yu Tianming were also releasing their deadly energies which enveloped Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng had the feeling that there was a mountain on his shoulders. They were all extremely strong, there wasn't a single weak link amongst them. "Lin Feng, you're very smart, you stole my sister, you're the only one she will care about for now," said Duan Wuya in an ice-cold tone. "Your Majesty, could it be that you still think that I'm the one who gave her that poison?" said Lin Feng, ignoring Duan Wuya's cold tone. "You know better than anyone else if you did it or not. Besides, you're the one who benefited from all the advantageous aspects of that situation, you got what you wanted. Even if we don't talk about that poison, now you stole my sister's innocence. Besides, everybody knows about it, it is a humiliation for the imperial family and for my sister." Duan Wuya was shouting furiously. The fact that everybody knew that Duan Xinye wasn't a virgin anymore was a catastrophic humiliation for Duan Xinye and the imperial family. For them, face was an extremely important thing. It could be said that causing them to lose face was enough of a reason to kill Lin Feng. It didn't matter if Lin Feng was the one who gave the poison, he had humiliated and polluted Duan Xinye, or more precisely, this was the rumor which would be spread. Chapter 524, Heartless Conditions. Lin Feng was coldly staring at Duan Wuya. It was all about face, the imperial city clan only cared about their own prestige, they didn't care about Xinye. "I would like to ask you, if I hadn't saved Xinye, what would have happened?" asked Lin Feng in an ice-cold tone which surprised Duan Wuya. "She would have died, or even if somebody else had saved her, the humiliation would have been the same, they would either lose face or lose the princess. Shouldn't you go and find out who really gave the poison to her instead of groundlessly accusing me? Besides, attaching importance to a concept such as face is useless, you can't change what happened. Do you think that if you kill me, you will regain the prestige you lost? Have you thought about Xinye?" shouted Lin Feng furiously. Duan Wuya couldn't refute Lin Feng's words. "What you mean is that we should let you off that easily," said Yu Tianming. "Shut the hell up. shouted Lin Feng. He then added, "You have nothing to say here. Nobody gives a shit about your crappy marriage agreement. I've already told you, Xinyi is mine." Even if the incident of yesterday evening had never happened, she would have still remained mine and only mine. Yu Tianming pulled a long face. He hated Lin Feng, he hated him so much. And Lin Feng wasn't even giving him face. Besides, for Yu Tianming, it was more embarrassing that his own grandfather, Yu Qingshan, had told him to stop blocking Lin Feng. He didn't want him to directly oppose Lin Feng. His grandfather, by doing that, had implied that Yu Tianming wasn't a match for Lin Feng. When Duan Wuye heard Lin Feng's aggressive tone of speech, he remained silent for a long time and then said, "How do you want to solve the problem then? What do you think? Do you have any ideas?" asked Lin Feng. Duan Wuye probably already had an idea. "I want you to marry Xinyi immediately and tell everyone. That is the only solution which will regain our prestige," said Duan Wuye, looking firm. Yu Tianming was astonished. He wanted Lin Feng to immediately marry Duan Xinyi. What about the marriage contract? Lin Feng looked stupefied for less than a second but immediately returned to normal. That solution was probably the best. Killing Lin Feng gave no advantages, it would only cause more damage. "Let me think," replied Lin Feng. He was, of course, going to marry Duan Xinyi, but time was a problem. "Think? You need to think. My sister's reputation has been tarnished. Everybody knows about what happened. And you're still thinking of a way to flee from your responsibility? Lin Feng, give me your answer immediately," said Duan Wuye, looked firm and tenacious. "I will marry Xinyi," said Lin Feng, completely certain. He, of course, had to bear that responsibility for his actions. Duan Xinyi was a princess and he had taken away her virginity. Besides, everybody already knew about it. Duan Xinyi would be considered an easy woman if he didn't marry her. He had to marry her for her reputation. "You must marry her, but also quickly," said Duan Wuye while staring at Lin Feng. "Besides, you have to show to everyone that you are determined. Everybody must know that you are going to marry her." Duan Wuye continued, "Everybody knows that my sister is not a virgin anymore. If you don't marry her right away, she will never regain her reputation. Everything is now in your hands. The only solution is for you to show to everybody that you are determined to be with her and quickly. That is the only way for my sister to regain her reputation." Lin Feng felt tense and nervous, but Duan Wuye was absolutely right. If he didn't marry Duan Xinyi quickly enough, she wouldn't regain her reputation. Lin Feng had to prove to everybody that he wanted to be with Duan Xinyi, but also that he was the perfect man for her. He had to impress everyone and show them that he had what it took to marry a princess. However, how could he do that? How could he prove that he had what was required to marry her? "Brother, you are so mean to Lin Feng. I don't care if he doesn't want to marry me, it doesn't matter," said Duan Xinyi while running out of her residence. If Lin Feng was willing to marry her, that was already enough. She would be happy to share everything with him. Initially, she didn't even want to be his first wife, she just wanted to stay by his side. She didn't care about prestige or reputation. "Xinyi, you have nothing to say here. We're not talking to you," said Duan Wuye aggressively. Considering Duan Wuye's behavior and statements, it seemed like he had planned everything from the beginning. Lin Feng then asked, "Your Highness, tell me, how I can prove it to everyone then. I want you to participate in the great competition of Shuiyu and become the glory of Shuiyu. You must show everyone the power of our country. Then you must return and marry my sister," said Duan Wuye slowly. Then he added, "You, Lin Feng, must participate in the great competition of Shuiyu and place amongst the top 10 participants, but not at the bottom of the list, only 9th place or above. Otherwise, it would be better for you to die in the competition. There would be no need to return. My sister can't marry someone who is not worthy." "Brother, you're asking too much. That's too exaggerated, shouted Duan Xin. It would be extremely difficult to finish in the top 9. Lin Feng was from Xueyu and it was just a small and normal country amongst the 13 countries of Xueyu. There were 4 empires and 9 countries, and they all had extremely strong cultivators participating. Those chosen to participate in the great competition of Xueyu were all the strongest cultivators from those countries. If all those countries had chosen only their strongest cultivator, there would have been 13 powerhouses. Lin Feng had only 1 year to do it. The great competition of Xueyu would start soon, so it would, of course, not require 1 year to complete. However, Lin Feng also had to become the first high official in the same year. One could also understand, from Duan Wuya's tone of speech and behavior, that becoming the first high official of Xueyu was even more difficult than finishing in the top 9 of the great competition. What Duan Wuya seemed to think was that Duan Wu Dao, his brother, was even stronger than the people who finished in the top 9 of the great competition of Xueyu. At least, Duan Wuya thought so. He had faith in his brother. Even if Lin Feng finished in the top 9, he would still be very far from being able to compete with Duan Wu Dao. I have no choice, right? Said Lin Feng. Indeed, no choice, said Duan Wuya while shaking his head. Lin Feng remained silent for a moment and then grabbed Duan Xinye's hand. He then said, I'm going somewhere with Duan Xinye for a few days. Where? The lovesick forest, replied Lin Feng calmly. Duan Wuya nodded and said, no problem, bring her back in a few days' time. I don't want the same things, which happened in the past, to happen again. Lin Feng remained silent. He obviously understood that Duan Wuya was talking about the fact that Yu Menghe and Lin Hai left Xueyu, but the result was Lin Hai's cultivation was sealed and he was unable to enter the imperial city. Because of what had happened 18 years before, Lin Hai had to hide in the lovesick forest. Chapter 525. The story. Duan Wuya didn't try to prevent Lin Feng from leaving. Everything Duan Wuya was doing was for Duan Xinye. He was asking Lin Feng to come back as a glorious hero, to astonish the entire country and marry her. But Lin Feng didn't feel good about it. Actually, he felt horrible. He had the feeling that he was being manipulated. Even if Duan Wuya hadn't told him to finish amongst the best cultivators in the great competition of Xueyu, Lin Feng would have done his best regardless. He would continue to improve his cultivation without added ultimatums. Becoming stronger and stronger was always part of his plan. Lin Feng already intended to confront Duan Wu Dao sooner or later. Lin Feng had already decided these things by himself. But Duan Wuya was asking him to do it with little margin for error. If he failed, then Lin Feng should just die. Besides, he only had 1 year to defeat Duan Wu Dao and become the first high official. Both things were extremely difficult. It was heartless, but Lin Feng had no choice. Maybe it was a means to challenge himself, to make him even more motivated to quickly surpass his current level and become stronger. Lin Feng was holding Duan Xinye's hand and walking forward. They passed by Duan Wuya and Yu Tianming. Yu Tianming looked glum. Duan Wuya hadn't killed Lin Feng. He had only set 2 challenges, but in the end, he let Duan Xinye leave with Lin Feng. Kacha! A subtle sound filled the air. Yu Tianming had clenched his fists so hard and released his energy into the air. He would do his best to prevent Lin Feng from finishing in the top cultivators of the great competition of Xueyu. Even if Yu Qingshan didn't allow him to fight against Lin Feng, he would still do it. In the forbidden area of the lovesick forest, in front of a tree with some cabin lodges, there were 2 tables and chairs. 2 people were sitting looking carefree and at home. Those 2 people were women. They were both extremely beautiful and looked like angels. They were just sitting there, but anyone who saw them would feel a peaceful atmosphere fall over them. How should the eyebrows be? Thick or thin? A pure and holy-looking woman raised her head. She didn't need anything to become more beautiful, she only had to stand there and it would make the world seem colorless in comparison. The other woman raised her head as well, even though she wasn't young anymore, she didn't have many wrinkles on her face. She just had a deep and profound look in her eyes. She looked natural, warm and friendly. She was smiling and looked gorgeous. "Let the brush move with your heart," said the beautiful Yu Menghe while looking at her future daughter-in-law. She was very satisfied. Meng Qing was extremely beautiful, she wasn't any less beautiful than Yu Menghe when she was at that age. If Meng Qing were to be proclaimed as the most beautiful woman of Shuiyu, Yu Menghe would definitely agree. Lin Feng had a good eye for women. Even though she hadn't been with Meng Qing for a long time, Yu Menghe couldn't find anything bad about Meng Qing, she was extremely happy to have her as a future daughter-in-law. "Move with my heart," whispered Meng Qing. With the firm expression on her face, one could see that she didn't entirely understand what Yu Menghe was telling her, but she closed her eyes and continued. She was sketching the contours of a portrait. When she opened her eyes and saw her portrait, she had a resplendent smile on her face. Even though she wasn't good at painting, she wanted Yu Menghe to teach her. She wanted to nourish her soul and heart, she also found it to be extremely relaxing. In the distance, Lin Hai was still carving. He would occasionally raise his head and smile at them. If Lin Feng had been there, then the four of them could have shared this lovely moment, that would have been wonderful. "Father, Mother, Meng Qing." At that moment, a voice sounded which pleasantly surprised the three of them. It was Lin Feng's voice. But when they raised their head, they were surprised. There were two silhouettes. Apart from Lin Feng, there was also a young woman, she was beautiful. Meng Qing was stupefied. She could, of course, recognize Duan Xinyi, she had already seen her. In Duanren City and Umo, Lin Feng had saved Duan Xinyi, then, he left the forbidden area of the Z government with Duan Xinyi. Meng Qing knew exactly who she was, she also knew that Duan Xinyi was in love with Lin Feng. Meng Qing was a woman who had a sharp intuition, by glancing once at Duan Xinyi's eyes, she could easily see that she liked Lin Feng. Besides, at that moment, Duan Xinyi was lowering her head, she looked extremely shy. When Meng Qing saw that, she immediately felt something. Yu Menghe could also feel something, she couldn't help but glance at Lin Hai with a deep and meaningful look. Lin Hai was stupefied. He couldn't help but lower his head and smile secretly. His son was even more skilled with women than himself. A short moment after, Lin Feng arrived in front of Yu Menghe and Meng Qing. Meng Qing could sense something, so she immediately put the painting away. When Yu Menghe saw that, she remained silent and sighed. Meng Qing's love for Lin Feng was extremely deep, she could feel that something was wrong, but she still took the time to hide her painting. She was extremely scared of Lin Feng having a negative opinion, because the portrait Meng Qing had been painting was of Lin Feng. Lin Feng glanced at Yu Menghe and then at Meng Qing. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but words wouldn't come out. He couldn't say anything. At the same time, Lin Feng looked strange, he looked remorseful and felt like a weight had fallen on his heart. Yu Menghe and Meng Qing obviously understood what had happened. Yu Menghe shook her head, she didn't know what to say either. But at that moment, Meng Qing stood up, which surprised Lin Feng, he just looked over to her and waited to see what she was going to do. Meng Qing stood up and walked towards Duan Xinyi, who then lowered her head even more, she looked like a little girl who had done something wrong. Her heart started pounding to the extent that she could hear her own heartbeat. "I'm sorry," said Duan Xinyi in a low voice. Even though she was a princess, she knew perfectly well that Meng Qing and Lin Feng's love was extremely deep, she was well aware of it, but she had also fallen in love with Lin Feng, and she had involved herself in their relationship. She was a princess, but in front of Meng Qing, she never acted arrogantly. Meng Qing's qi seemed to be that of an ice goddess. Men felt oppressed in front of her, but so did women. A sudden sound broke the silence which surprised Duan Xinyi. She raised her head and saw Meng Qing smile at her. Meng Qing was surprisingly smiling at her. Xinyi couldn't believe it, but she could actually see a smile on Meng Qing's beautiful face. She wasn't angry. Duan Xinyi wasn't the only one astonished, but Lin Feng was too. Yu Meng was shocked as well and fixedly stared at Meng Qing's smile. Xinyi, you're a princess, you probably know how to paint, you can teach me, said Meng Qing while taking Duan Xinyi's hand. Lin Feng was holding her hand on one side, and Meng Qing was holding her hand on the other side. She was gobsmacked and just stared at Meng Qing with rounded eyes. Come quickly, sit down, said Meng Qing while pulling Duan Xinyi to a chair. Immediately after, she took a brush and a paper roll. She was preparing everything for her. She didn't look cold at all, she only had a magnificent and warm smile on her face. Meng Qing, whispered Lin Feng. Meng Qing glanced at him and then ignored him. She was only talking to Duan Xinyi. Yu Meng he walked towards Lin Feng and hugged him. Then she walked into the distance. Lin Feng obviously understood what Yu Meng he meant. He then followed her and arrived next to Lin Hai. Father, said Lin Feng as he approached. He didn't know what to say to either of his parents. Yu Meng he looked at Lin Feng. She wasn't angry at him, she was just smiling and said, Little Feng, what is going on between you and the princess? Lin Feng smiled wryly and explained everything. He didn't even hide the fact that they had slept together. He told his parents of the events. Even though that world was full of coldness and cruelty, for Lin Feng, family and friends were the most important people in his life. He really cherished them, so how could he hide things from his parents? When Yu Meng he heard Lin Feng, she sighed, looked at him and wrinkled her brow. She then said, I don't know how you lived before, but Xinyi has given up everything for you. If you don't cherish Meng Qing, I will never let you off. There is no need to consider other things, just look at Meng Qing and how deeply she cares for you. She loves you, no matter what happens in the future, you must cherish her, you cannot lose her. Yu Meng he was talking in a strict and firm tone. Lin Feng was a bit surprised but nodded in a serious way. How could he forget about Meng Qing? She was the woman he loved the most in the world. Chapter 526, Painting with the Heart. Yu Meng he surprised Lin Feng. He looked at his mother. She had already completely adopted Meng Qing, to the extent that she was taking her side against Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. Meng Qing and his mother got along very well. He was, of course, really happy about that. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at Meng Qing and Duan Xinyi together in the distance. He could see that they were talking. Duan Xinyi seemed more relaxed at that moment and she was smiling in a resplendent way. Lin Feng felt like a heavy weight had been lifted from his heart. He had two amazing women, he could only be happy. He didn't need his mother to tell him that, he was perfectly aware, he deeply loved and cherished them. He thought about all the things Meng Qing and Duan Xinyi had told him in the past and started laughing. Without having to talk about who would be the main wife or not, everything was flowing without any trouble. Meng Qing had already told him she didn't mind him having several women on his side, and Duan Xinyi had told him she didn't care about having the status of main wife in the past, she would just be happy to stay with him. Lucky boy, said Lin Hai while sighing and smiling. His son was so lucky in love, he had two incredibly beautiful girls. As a father, he could only be happy. What? Do you mean that you are not happy? Said Yu Meng he while looking at Lin Hai, which surprised him. A trembling smile appeared on his face and he said, Of course not, I'm happy too. Then he lowered his head and continued carving. That sweet moment made Lin Feng smile even more. His lips started shaking and he said to his father, I now understand what you were scared of, father. Foul-mouthed little boy, watch your language, said Lin Hai, looking upset. Lin Feng immediately started shaking his head hastily and walked away as if nothing had ever happened. Go my son, be a good man to Xin Yi and Meng Qing, said Yu Menghe while looking at Duan Xin Yi and Meng Qing, who were not too far from them. Lin Feng nodded and slowly walked towards them. At that moment, Meng Qing also took a brush and a piece of paper and started learning from Duan Xin Yi. She then started outlining the contours of her painting. They were ignoring Lin Feng, they were lost in that moment of happiness. Lin Feng was excluded from that joyful moment. Everything was unexpected for Lin Feng, but he felt gratified. Duan Xin Yi stayed in the lovesick forest for 2 days and stayed with Meng Qing for 2 days. She taught her how to paint. Once in a while, they would chat and laugh together too. The poor Lin Feng was alone, excluded. For 2 days the girls ignored him. He felt sad, he didn't know whom he had offended. On the 3rd day, Duan Wuya sent some people to the lovesick forest to pick up Duan Xin Yi, and at the same time, report a message to Lin Feng. Ruolan Shan wanted Lin Feng to go to and wait in front of the imperial palace 3 days later. They were going to leave for the Dragon Mountain Empire. That news had excited the entire country. The great competition of Shuiyu was finally going to start, but they still didn't know how many people were going to participate. Lin Feng guessed that Ruolan Shan hadn't really selected fighters, he was just considering the dates. 3 days was fine though, the great competition of Shuiyu would happen sooner or later, leaving earlier would be a good opportunity to meet some geniuses of the empire. Duan Wu Dao, Duan Wuya, Yu Tianmeng and the others will all go there, thought Lin Feng, but at that moment, he was sitting in the bamboo forest and there was a huge straw mat on which there were many papers. Lin Feng was painting, his hand was moving over the paper like many shooting stars. In front of Lin Feng, Meng Qing was sat about 3 meters away. She looked calm and serene, apart from her eyes and Lin Feng's hands, it seemed like nothing else was moving in the world. The silhouette of a woman gradually appeared under Lin Feng's painting brush. She looked affectionate, soft and delicate, pure and holy like a celestial being. She also looked natural and carefree. However, in that painting, that girl didn't look as beautiful as in reality. No, it's not good, thought Lin Feng while slowly shaking his head. He wasn't satisfied. He tore the paper apart and flames appeared in his hand, he burnt the paper into ashes. Lin Feng, do you still need a long time? Asked Meng Qing in a low voice. She had been sitting there for too long and Lin Feng had tried many times but he had failed each time. Each time, he had burnt the paper. Meng Qing was upset. Initially, Duan Xin Yi had been teaching her how to paint, after that, Lin Feng had started trying to paint Meng Qing's portrait, without any interruption. Besides, he didn't allow Meng Qing to leave, he wanted her in front of him. You must wait until I'm done, said Lin Feng while laughing, he knew that he was being annoying. Meng Qing remained silent and seated. She looked pure and free from vulgarity, she perfectly matched with the beautiful scenery. The sound of Lin Feng's brush on the paper continued spreading through the air. Another portrait appeared, another Meng Qing, she looked very similar. Lin Feng had managed to make her face seem extremely beautiful, but it lacked vitality. No, said Lin Feng in a low voice again. He tore the paper apart and burnt it slowly. Lin Feng had burnt another piece of paper. Lin Feng put another piece of paper in front him and started again. In Lin Feng's eyes, there was only Meng Qing at that moment, nothing else. His paintbrush danced over the paper, a portrait appeared again, the sounds of the brush on the paper and of the rustling leaves were merging together in the air, it was very romantic. No, no, no. Lin Feng managed to paint her face beautifully each time, she looked very similar but there was something lacking, it was vitality, that vitality which gave people the impression that the 10,000 things of creation were colorless when they saw Meng Qing. Lin Feng didn't even know how many sheets he had burnt already, but Meng Qing was still sitting there and watching the beautiful bamboo forest. When she saw Lin Feng frown in anguish, she didn't look impatient at all, her heart was filled with sweet feelings. Lin Feng was watching her carefully and she was also looking at Lin Feng. They weren't talking at all, but most of the time, only a glance sufficed for them to guess their mutual thoughts. Time was passing slowly and the sky was growing dark, day and night were merging at that moment, time was really passing slowly. However, Lin Feng was still silent, from morning to evening, he had remained silent, and then from evening to morning, until the sunrise appeared and the flowers bloomed. They had the feeling they were witnessing the awakening of the world, the creation of the planet. Finally, on the third day, Lin Feng raised his brush in the air. He looked at Meng Qing, a gentle breeze brushed his body which made his hair flutter gently. Immediately after, he closed his eyes, slowly. He stopped looking at Meng Qing, he just closed his eyes and finally his hands started floating above the paper again. The sound of the brush on the paper started spreading in the air again, but this time, there was nothing messy at all. Lin Feng was painting in a free and unrestrained way, as if guided by the heavens. Lin Feng's eyes were closed, his hand continued dancing over the paper, smoothly and skillfully. He did everything in one go without stopping once, he had been struggling for 3 days but at that moment, he had won. Phew! Lin Feng sighed and opened his eyes, he then looked at his painting, finally, he smiled in a resplendent way, he couldn't stop smiling. Finally, he raised his painting and looked at it, it looked alive. It was filled with vitality. Besides, it didn't just look good, it was magnificent. Meng Qing raised her head and looked at Lin Feng, he had been looking at her for 3 days and had used up a lot of energy. Meng Qing gave a magnificent smile. That portrait was incredibly beautiful, just like a celestial being, like a flower blossoming. I finally managed to do it, said Lin Feng in a low voice with a smile of satisfaction on his face. Lin Feng, since you closed your eyes, why did you need me here? Because I need to feel your presence, if you're next to me, I can picture you in my mind and in my heart, said Lin Feng in a soft and tender voice while smiling. When I'm on the road and miss you too much, at least, I can look at this portrait of you. And when I painted you, I had to close my eyes, because I needed to use my heart to see you, my eyes are not efficient enough. Meng Qing felt embarrassed and stroked her hair, she looked incredibly beautiful. Lin Feng had closed his eyes to paint her, and painted with his heart. Besides, that painting wasn't only Meng Qing's portrait, it was Meng Qing's love. Chapter 527, Departure. This time, Lin Feng was going to go to the Dragon Mountain Empire, there would probably be many dangers during that journey. Lin Feng was obviously not going to bring Meng Qing with him, she would stay in the lovesick forest while Lin Feng would go alone with his winged tiger. Before leaving, Lin Feng went to Duan Xin Ye's residence, but shockingly, he found out that she didn't live there anymore. Her female protectors weren't there anymore either. Lin Feng was extremely upset, Duan Wuya was cruel. Surprisingly, he had brought Duan Xin to another place so Lin Feng couldn't see her. Lin Feng had no other solution, he could only give up, he didn't know where she was. Lin Feng jumped onto his winged tiger and they flew to the foot of Duanwu Mountain, where they were supposed to meet. At that moment, there were many people there already. Apart from the people from the Dragon Mountain Empire, there were also some geniuses from Shuiyu. Lin Feng glanced at them. They were 9 people in total. There was Lin Feng, Duan Wuya, Yu Tianming, Wu Qing, Yu Qin, Yu Jian, Yun Fei Yang and 2 people whom Lin Feng didn't know. They were wearing black clothes and were releasing a cold and oppressive qi. They looked extremely firm and tenacious and absolutely expressionless. Besides, nobody was standing next to those 2 people. They were calmly standing together, away from the rest of the group. Apart from Duan Wu Dao, the high officials were all present, maybe those 2 people were actually the 2 newest high officials. Indeed, before that, 2 people had disappeared from the rankings, since they had died. Besides, they looked ice-cold and terrifyingly strong. Lin Feng could feel it. "Where is the Crown Prince Wu Dao?" said Ruolan Shan while looking at those 9 people. He was asking Duan Wuya. Duan Wu Dao was most likely the one Ruolan Shan wanted to see the most at the great competition of Shuiyu. He had already heard about him, he didn't need to see him to know that he was extremely strong. Duan Wu Dao couldn't miss the great competition of Shuiyu, at all costs. "Mr. Ruo, my brother will travel alone. He doesn't like being with other people. He told me to tell you that. At the moment of the great competition of Shuiyu, he will of course show himself." Duan Wuya was smiling while talking, which made Ruolan Shan frown. Duan Wu Dao wasn't going to travel with them. But after a short moment, he nodded. Duan Wu Dao was unruly and aggressive, he was also extremely strong. For those kinds of people, traveling alone was normal. Besides, Duan Wu Dao would participate in the great competition of Shuiyu, he was so aggressive and violent that such a competition could only be an exciting event for him. Even though everybody knew that he was unruly, violent and aggressive, everybody knew that all he cared about was cultivation. He didn't offend those who didn't offend him, but he killed those who did. Ruolan Shan, who was sharing his black hawk with Jian Chen, said to the others, 3 people can ride the same black winged hawk, let's go. The crowd nodded. Small groups were formed and were jumping on the back of the hawks. But Lin Feng didn't ride those hawks, he had his winged tiger. It was also extremely quick, and it wasn't slower than those black hawks. Lin Feng made a step and jumped onto his winged tiger, which spread its fire-red wings. It looked extraordinarily majestic. It only glanced at those black hawks for a few seconds, but it was sufficient to scare them. Ancient ferocious beasts were extremely terrifying. "Lin Feng, can I come with you?" asked Yun Fei Yang at that moment. "Of course, no problem, come on," said Lin Feng indifferently. Yun Fei Yang had helped him in the past, Lin Feng couldn't refuse. Zish. A silhouette flickered in front of Lin Feng, which stupefied him. There was a hurricane around that silhouette. That silhouette flickered and landed on the winged tiger's back. Incredibly, it was Lan Jiao from the Cosmic Pavilion. Lan Jiao didn't stay with the people from the Cosmic Pavilion, she had decided to travel with Lin Feng on his winged tiger. "Why didn't you ask me to come with you?" asked Lan Jiao while glancing at Lin Feng. Did Lin Feng need to ask her? She couldn't come onto the winged tiger without asking herself, she was always like that. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. He didn't mind Lan Jiao riding his winged tiger with him. He looked at her and said, "If you want to travel with me, of course, have no objection, you're welcome." "Since when are you so polite?" asked Lan Jiao while raising her head and glancing at Lin Feng in an indifferent way, which made Lin Feng shake his head and smile wryly. He didn't add anything else though. "You've never been to the Dragon Mountain Empire, the trip will maybe last for a few days. Maybe you don't want to stay with me that long, maybe you don't want me to show you around Dragon Mountain," said Lan Jiao when she saw that Lin Feng remained silent. Lin Feng remained silent for a moment. Actually, he had really never been to Dragon Empire. Now, he had to go there. Besides, he needed a few things which he couldn't find in Shuiyu, so he was hoping to find them in Dragon Empire. "When we are in Dragon Empire, I will definitely need your help with a few things," said Lin Feng while looking at Lan Jiao, which made a grin appear on the corner of her mouth. Lin Feng also needed her sometimes, apparently. When Lin Feng saw Lan Jiao's facial expression, he shook her head. What she want from him? Yun Fei Yang remained silent and inwardly laughed. That girl from Dragon Empire surprisingly seemed interested in Lin Feng. Chapter 528, Practicing Cultivation in the Sky. In the air, the Black Hawks were clapping their wings and flying at full speed. The strong winds that were created blew on everyone's bodies while the sounds of fluttering wings were heard. Lin Feng, Yun Fei Yang and Lan Jiao were riding the winged tiger. Lan Jiao was sitting near the middle of the wings, Yun Fei Yang was sitting on the back of the beast, and Lin Feng was standing on it near the head. Lin Feng was looking down at the landscape. There were clouds, fog, and huge roads. There were some mountain chains and deep forests, which made Lin Feng gasp in amazement. Finally, he was leaving Xueyu. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Since Lin Feng had been in the continent of the 9 clouds, he had practiced cultivation very hard. He wanted to reach the clouds and become one of the strongest cultivators in the world. At that moment, he was wondering what it was like outside of the continent of the 9 clouds. He longed for the day when he would be strong enough to bring his beloved with him out of the continent. They would travel millions of kilometers together, see huge mountains, lakes, and rivers. Participating in the great competition of Xueyu was a first step for Lin Feng. It wouldn't be his final achievement. These would just be his first steps out of Xueyu. His ultimate goal was neither Xueyu nor the Dragon Mountain Empire, nor was it Xueyu. Instead, he wanted to travel very far and see the corners and edges of the continent of the 9 clouds. People in his previous life used to wishfully think about becoming heroes or being extremely strong, but in this world of cultivation, it was possible. Lin Feng would someday break through to those mysterious cultivation layers which would enable him to destroy mountains and oceans. He would have incredible powers. Before, Lin Feng used to look at the sky wishing he could fly through it. Now he could soar above the clouds. Lin Feng wondered what it was like to have broken through to the highest cultivation layers. What was it like to be monstrously strong? To break through to the Tian Qi layer and become an everlasting cultivation god? Lan Jiao raised her head and looked at Lin Feng, who was standing still. He didn't look fat at all, he actually looked quite thin. Besides, he was as straight as a sword. His back wasn't crooked. It was a sign of his firm and indomitable willpower. "How far can Lin Feng see?" whispered Lan Jiao. She had spent some time with Lin Feng. Sometimes, he was cynical, frivolous, and had no respect for societal conventions. At other times he was aggressive and violent. He was also extremely stubborn. He didn't care about the consequences when he did things, even if they could be dangerous. No one dared infuriate him, but if they did, he'd kill them. But even though he looked like a death god at times, who knew how lonely and desolate he actually felt? He had come to this world, and what had happened? His uncles and cousins had wanted to kill him. Then he had been expelled from his own clan. Back then Lin Feng had nobody apart from his father. He had been alone in the world, he had only been able to rely on himself. He always had to kill people, otherwise they would kill him. Protector Kong and Protector Bei had given him affection. Even though he and Protector Kong hadn't talked much, Lin Feng had always respected him, but what had the result been? The Yunhai sect had been destroyed and Protector Kong sacrificed himself for him. Then Protector Bei helped him escape only to commit suicide after. All those hardships had shaped Lin Feng's personality. He had become a death god. He had immediately told Yan Yuping Sheng that without hesitation. He had opened his heart to him and had told him he wanted to be a selfless killer. Even if he was hated by all and they only wanted to kill him, Lin Feng didn't care. For the few people he loved, he was ready to become a monstrous murderer and kill them. "Let's speed up. We will arrive soon. Pay attention," said Ruolan Shan, whose voice spread in the air. The Black Hawks started to accelerate. The airstream was even more violent at that moment. With strong winds blowing upon everyone's faces, it was almost painful. The winged tiger accelerated as well, just like the Black Hawks. Lin Feng continued to stand still at the front of the winged tiger, gazing off into the distance. Despite the wind, he looked absolutely normal and expressionless. His clothes were emitting extremely loud fluttering sounds. It seemed like they were going to be torn apart by the wind. Ruolan Shan was sitting on the back of a Black Hawk, looking at the crowd. He was surprised. Some people were using pure qi to attenuate the effects of the wind while others were dodging the gusts of wind. Nobody had any problem resisting the wind, apart from Lin Feng, who was standing there normally. The strong winds were blowing on his body violently. His skin and clothes seemed like they were going to be ripped apart. The winged tiger was extremely fast. The faster it was, the stronger its countercurrents were. At incredible speeds, the wind could become as sharp as a blade. During battles, cultivators couldn't really feel it. But in the sky, while flying at full speed, the wind could be lethal. Lin Feng closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. He was immobile like a mountain, he looked like a haruka. He let the wind pound on his body. In Lin Feng's brain appeared the haruka statue. It seemed like it had come from remote ages, and it had adopted a particularly evil countenance. In Lin Feng's body, an incredible stream started flowing. The extremely sharp wind in the sky couldn't damage Lin Feng's skin. His skin was as solid as steel. Srrr. Srrr. An extremely sharp qi was flowing in his body and emitting sharp sounds. The crowd only saw Lin Feng's clothes getting ripped apart to be blown away along with the wind. Lin Feng's barebacked body appeared in the crowd's field of vision and they could see many veins appear. They could see strength flow through his body. It seemed like that strength was flowing in every part of Lin Feng's body. It was extremely strange. Huh? Many people were stupefied, their pupils were shrinking. What was going on? Lin Feng was practicing cultivation under such circumstances. An extremely strong strength was flowing in Lin Feng's veins. On top of that, it wasn't a pure qi, it was physical strength. Apart from pure qi, Lin Feng was also developing another kind of physical strength. And it seemed extremely powerful. Ruolan Shan admired Lin Feng's power of understanding and determination. In such circumstances, he was still practicing cultivation. Behind the winged tiger on a black hawk, a silhouette stood up and released ice-cold qi which moved towards Lin Feng. That person was looking at Lin Feng and was about to unsheath their sword. That person looked like a murderer. That person looked elegant, handsome and delicate. He looked like a hero. He was the last of the high officials, Yu Jian. He was a sword cultivator. At that moment, his eyes looked as sharp as sword and he was looking at Lin Feng's back. Suddenly, Yu Jian saw Yunfei Yang raise his head and look at him. He had a resplendent smile on his face which stupefied Yu Jian. Even though he was smiling, Yunfei Yang looked like he could see through Yu Jian's heart. Yu Jian fixedly stared at Yunfei Yang who didn't stop smiling at him for even a second. Yu Jian! Shouted Yu Qin. Yu Jian stopped holding his sword and slowly turned around and sat down again, as if nothing had happened. Yunfei Yang also lowered his head again as if nothing had happened either. That move didn't draw anyone's attention but Yu Jian kept looking at Lin Feng. However, Ruolan Shan noticed that, even if the others didn't. He grinned while he observed. Yu Tianming and some other geniuses from Shuiyu hated Lin Feng. He knew about that. The Yu clan hated Lin Feng more than anything else. They all wanted him to die. A moment before, Yu Jian wanted to attack Lin Feng by surprise while he was practicing cultivation but Yunfei Yang helped Lin Feng and protected him. If Yunfei Yang hadn't been there, would he have attacked Lin Feng by surprise? Nobody could have seen that coming, but Ruolan Shan knew it isn't that easy to attack Lin Feng by surprise. Otherwise he wouldn't have practiced cultivation in such circumstances. Chapter 529, The Dragon Mountain Empire. The winged tiger and the black hawks were flying. After 3 days no one knew how far they had traveled but they were very far from Shuiyu. They looked down at the landscape. There were tall and lofty buildings that were much higher and more spectacular than those in Shuiyu. They were also snow-white. Looking at the buildings made incredible feelings arise in people's hearts. They felt mighty. "We have arrived in Celestial Dragon," said Ruolan Shan at that moment. Everyone's eyes started twinkling. Celestial Dragon City was the imperial city of Dragon Mountain, no wonder it looked so majestic and spectacular. Some people looked excited while others looked nervous. They had left Shueyu and were about to arrive in Celestial Dragon City, the imperial city of Dragon Mountain Empire. "Let's get ready to land," said Ruolan Shan. Everybody nodded except for Lin Feng, whose eyes were still closed. He was in his own world. It seemed like he didn't know what was going on around him. Lan Jiao made a step and arrived next to Lin Feng. Her beautiful eyes were twinkling. That guy was obviously not practicing cultivation anymore. Why wasn't he waking up? She opened her mouth but a sharp chi emerged so she didn't talk. Immediately after she saw Lin Feng open his eyes looked resplendent and sharp. A moment before she had sensed that sharp chi, it had actually come out of Lin Feng's eyes. The Dragon Mountain Empire. Lin Feng glanced around at the vast and boundless city under him. He looked extremely excited. He had been in that world for a few years and he had finally left Shueyu. That was his first step in the continent of the 9 clouds. "Let's land now," said Ruolan Shan. In a flash, the Black Hawks started nosediving. Lin Feng told his winged tiger to land using telepathy. In a flash, they were on the ground. The place where they landed was extremely broad and vast. It looked like a huge field designed to practice cultivation. Once in a while some curious people would stare at them, wondering who the strange visitors were. "Welcome to Celestial Dragon City, the imperial city of Dragon Mountain Empire," said Ruolan Shan while turning his head around and smiling. Even though he was an ambassador and had gone to Tianfeng and Shueyu, Dragon Empire was still his own country. In other countries he didn't feel at ease. He felt much better to be back in his own country, as if a huge burden had disappeared from his heart. He didn't need to be overcautious in his own country. Lin Feng looked at the environment. At that moment they were on a gigantic public square. To the north of the public square there was a gigantic arched door with a few words written on it, "Virtuous Dragon Residence." "Let me tell you a few things, you are now in the Dragon Empire. Here you can stay in the Virtuous Dragon Residence for a few days. I already sent a letter to Tianfeng to tell them to send some geniuses. When they arrive, there will be you and 16 geniuses from Dragon Mountain. You will participate in the great competition of Shueyu together," said Ruolan Shan slowly. Each empire had to choose 36 geniuses in total. Dragon Empire had to choose candidates from their own empire as well as candidates from Shueyu and Tianfeng to display their strength. Tianfeng and Shueyu each had 10 people chosen, and 16 had been chosen from the empire. Everybody nodded, they weren't surprised. After all, the geniuses in Dragon Mountain were stronger and more numerous, so them having more candidates was normal. The empire was, after all, an empire. Cultivation facilities were much better in the empire and geniuses were more numerous. An empire could only be stronger than a country. The Virtuous Dragon Residents have many cultivation facilities. If you want to practice, you can find a place you like and practice cultivation. The Virtuous Dragon Residence was a sort of hotel where foreigners from Shueyu and Tianfeng could go. An empire remains an empire, thought Lin Feng. The Dragon Mountain Empire controlled by Shueyu. When people from Dragon Mountain were in Shueyu, they stayed in the imperial palace of Shueyu and the prince or the king had to receive and entertain them. They had to be extremely respectful to them as well. However, when people from Shueyu were in Dragon Mountain, it wasn't that way. Their group were going to stay in some sort of hotel for foreigners, not in the imperial palace of Dragon Mountain. But their respective powers were imbalanced, one was a country under the jurisdiction of the other. People from Shueyu were not surprised, unable to stay in the imperial palace of Dragon Empire. Everybody just nodded. Besides, cultivators didn't really care about where they were going to stay, that was just a practical matter, nothing more. Although they care about face, being received as extremely distinguished guests didn't really matter to them. Alright, you must all be tired from of the journey, go and have a rest. I will not bother you anymore. If you need anything, you can tell the people of the Virtuous Dragon residence to contact me. I need to tell you something else. You are here, in my empire, the Dragon Mountain Empire. I hope that you will not cause trouble here because I don't want anything to happen to you. You cannot die before the great competition of Shueyu. You may fight, but no battles to the death," said Ruolan Shan with sharp lights twinkling in his eyes while glancing at the crowd, especially Yu Jian. During the flight, Yu Jian had thought about attacking Lin Feng. Now, they were in Dragon Mountain, some of them wanted to kill Lin Feng. They were going to live together in the same residence, so there were probably going to be tensions, and the situation could explode at any moment. Everybody slightly nodded. They understood that if they did something wrong, Ruolan Shan would tell them to leave. Everybody glanced at each other and then gazed into the distance. They had arrived in the empire. They of course, wanted to go for a walk. Briefly, a few people went to the residence while others went for a walk in the city. Lan Jiao looked at Lin Feng as if she were waiting for him to say something. Lin Feng looked at Lan Jiao, smiled, and shook his head when he saw how she was behaving. "Let's go and find a room, then you can show me around." "All right," asked Lin Feng. "Are you giving me an order?" asked Lan Jiao while crossing her arms before her chest. She was looking at him in a seductive way. Lin Feng looked at Lan Jiao. He was puzzled. He then decided to immediately turn around and walked towards the Virtuous Dragon residence with the winged tiger following him. "You," said Lan Jiao. She was stupefied. She then started walking as well. "That bastard." But she followed him anyway. The Virtuous Dragon residence was also a huge snowy white building. It was clean and beautiful. It looked like a very nice place. From outside, one could see there were some courtyards inside. The long corridors looked like dragons. There were ponds and a beautiful courtyard. Of course, they had to go through the main gate to see more. From outside they could only see a part of it. It seemed that every courtyard in the residence were different. "Let's go there," said Lin Feng while pointing at a courtyard. He then immediately entered the courtyard. He was only going to stay there for a few days. Besides, Lin Feng thought that that courtyard looked extremely sumptuous. Lin Feng left his winged tiger there and then left with Lan Jiao. The winged tiger was an ancient ferocious animal. It would draw people's attention if he took it with him into the city and might attract trouble. Celestial Dragon was much bigger than the imperial city of Shueyu. The streets were wider. People had more beautiful changpaos. They looked extremely elegant. People from Dragon Mountain Empire seemed to particularly like snowy white clothes. "Where do you want to go?" asked Lan Jiao. Lin Feng immediately replied, "I don't know what there is here, so no need to ask me." "All right, I will bring you to a nice place. I will show you where some geniuses go. If you're lucky, you might meet a gorgeous woman too," said Lan Jiao while smiling. Surprised, Lin Feng asked, "What place?" "The best restaurant in the city, the Celestial Palace restaurant, which belongs to the Tang clan," replied Lan Jiao. Chapter 530, The Alcohol of the Best Restaurant, Tang Clan. Celestial Palace. Lin Feng was curious. It was a restaurant and it was surprisingly called the Celestial Palace Restaurant. What a powerful and aggressive name. When you see it, you will understand why it is called Celestial Palace, said Lan Jiao while smiling. She then led the way, walking on a big road. They walked for about half an hour before they arrived in front of a gigantic white fortress. That white fortress had 9 floors. It was shaped like a pyramid where each floor was more narrow than the one under. Of course the ground floor was incredible. It supported such a huge building. "It's really a palace," whispered Lin Feng. That domineering palace couldn't have been called a restaurant, or else it would have been an euphemism. The Tang clan is the most powerful family in the Dragon Mountain Empire. It is also one of the oldest clans. This palace is one of their emblems, that's why it looks so incredible. I can tell you that those who enter the palace are extremely strong. You have to be of the 5th Ling Qi layer or higher to enter. On top of that, you cannot be older than 30 years old, unless you're a member of the Tang clan," said Lan Jiao while smiling, which surprised Lin Feng. The Tang clan was the most powerful and influential clan of the Dragon Mountain Empire. They were much stronger than the Yu clan or the Yu clan in Shuiyu. They had founded that palace and only people who were above the 5th Ling Qi layer could enter. Besides, the alcohol in this restaurant is extremely expensive," said Lan Jiao while smiling even more. Lin Feng really wanted to see what kind of alcohol they had in the restaurant. Why was it so expensive? Was it special? "Let's go inside," said Lin Feng in a low voice, and then immediately walked towards the restaurant. When Lan Jiao saw Lin Feng walk towards the restaurant, she smiled in a sly way and followed him. The ground floor was gigantic, and there were many people. They all looked extremely young, but the atmosphere was extremely calm. People were just whispering in order not to disturb others. Besides, they were mainly focusing on their drinks and enjoying the taste. Lin Feng glanced at them. As expected, none of them were weak. "Don't look at them, they think they're great. They put on some nice clothes and come here, but they actually only mingle with the Kanashenti. They're worthless," said Lan Jiao while smiling. She was talking in a very untactful way and everybody started staring at them. They looked extremely upset. Lin Feng glanced at Lan Jiao. Was she trying to cause trouble? "What a rude girl," said someone when he heard her. Some people even stood up. They looked furious. "You see, they're tiny little people and are easily provoked," said Lan Jiao while giggling. Lin Feng shook his head when he saw those people come towards them. He started releasing some qi and force. In a flash, those people stopped walking. Immediately after, they went back to their seats. Even though they were furious, they just lowered their heads and started drinking again. Strength was the most important thing. "Let's go, we're heading to the 5th floor," said Lan Jiao while holding Lin Feng's arm, and then arm in arm, they started walking towards the flight of stairs. The people were astonished when they heard her, 5th floor. That floor is reserved for those of Xian Qi layer at least. They were stunned. Lan Jiao and Lin Feng were so young but had already broken through to the Xian Qi layer. That was incredible. No wonder that Lan Jiao hadn't been scared of them. Lin Feng followed Lan Jiao. As they went up the building, the qi was getting stronger and stronger. Like Lan Jiao had said, the higher the floor, the stronger the cultivators. On the 5th floor, there were only people of the Xian Qi layer. On the 6th floor, cultivators had to be at least of the 2nd Xian Qi layer. On the 7th floor, they were at least of the 3rd Xian Qi layer. On the top floor, cultivators had to be at least of the 4th Xian Qi layer. People under the age of 30 who had broken through to the Xian Qi layer were already extremely rare. Therefore, people who came to the Celestial Palace restaurant were all under the 30 were actually, for the great majority, about 20. People who were about 20 and who could go to the top floor could also be considered as the most outstanding cultivators of Celestial Dragon. When they arrived on the 5th floor, they noticed that there were very few people. In the vast hall, only 8 tables were occupied. Nobody was talking, they were all very calm. "Lin Feng, let's drink something here, okay?" said Lan Jiao while smiling. Lin Feng nodded. He hadn't tasted the alcohol on the ground floor, so he had to try the alcohol on the 5th one. They both moved to a table and sat down. There was a carving on the table. It was a dragon. In the middle there was a cleft that Lin Feng didn't know what it was for. "Lin Feng, put a purity stone of a higher quality in here," said Lan Jiao while pointing at the cleft. Lin Feng was stunned. A purity stone of higher quality? Even though he felt reluctant, he still took one out and put it in the cleft. Crrr. Crrr, a light sound spread in the air and the purity stone disappeared inside. Lin Feng was stupefied. That was like a vending machine. Very quickly, another sound spread in the air and in front of Lin Feng appeared a small bottle. Huh! Lin Feng was astonished. That table was really incredible, you could get drinks by putting purity stones inside. The alcohol of the 5th floor is like that, for 1 purity stone of higher quality you can buy a small bottle. Have a try, said Lan Jiao while pouring some alcohol in a small glass before giving it to Lin Feng. Then, she also grabbed a glass for herself. The glasses were made of jade. Lin Feng was extremely curious, that alcohol was so expensive, but what did it taste like? Lin Feng raised the glass to his nose and smelt it, there wasn't any smell, so he just drained the glass in one gulp. Eee. Lin Feng sensed the alcohol going down his digestive system. His stomach started burning. Achoo! Lan Jiao smiled at Lin Feng and said, "It's the first time I see someone down a glass of hot unit liquor, you silly boy." Lin Feng's face turned red, he felt like he was burning. He looked at Lan Jiao and saw that she was only sipping it. Lin Feng was a bit upset. "That liquor is so strong," exclaimed Lin Feng. He had the feeling his blood and internal organs were turning upside down, as if his blood was burning. The pure qi in his body seemed like it was burning. It contained some scorching hot qi which was burning his blood vessels. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng in a strange way, that liquor was strong. "Where is that moron from?" said some in a despising way while looking at Lin Feng's red face. That person really despised Lin Feng at that moment. "Yeah, he's absolutely a moron. He wants to kill himself," said another one while laughing, which stupefied Lin Feng. He then coldly glanced at them. Lan Jiao was laughing though, she found Lin Feng's facial expression extremely funny. That hot unit liquor can burn people's pure qi and make it flow faster. It makes your veins and bloodstream stronger. It's extremely good for cultivators, but you must drink it slowly, it's even more effective than practicing cultivation. The problem is you downed it, luckily your cultivation level is high, otherwise you would have burnt your veins and internal organs," explained Lan Jiao while laughing. Lin Feng was surprised but remained silent. What a strange liquor. Surprisingly, it could help improve one's cultivation level, no wonder it cost 1 purity stone of higher quality. It seemed like the Celestial Palace restaurant really deserved its reputation and name. Lin Feng's pure qi and strength of the Haruka kept flowing together, making the heat flow. It was slowly rotating in his body. Lin Feng was gradually starting to feel better. It actually felt very pleasant. At that moment, he could sense how good that liquor was. Lan Jiao could see that Lin Feng was feeling good and said, "It's only the 5th floor, on the other floors, liquors are even better." "Better liquors?" Lin Feng looked impatient to try them. He really wanted to try them and see what they were like. "But some people just humiliated you, they called you a moron, they said you wanted to die," said Lan Jiao while laughing. She was voluntarily trying to make Lin Feng angry. Chapter 531, Rushing to the Top Floor. Lin Feng glared at Lan Jiao, she really liked to cause him trouble. When the two people who had just humiliated Lin Feng heard Lan Jiao, they laughed in a mocking way and said, "Someone who downs a glass of extremely strong liquor like water is a moron, there are no other words. He didn't die because he's lucky." "Lin Feng, you heard them clearly, they're insulting you again," said Lan Jiao while smiling. Lin Feng shook his head, poured some more liquor in his glass, and immediately downed it without hesitation. Some bubbling sounds emerged from his stomach. His internal organs felt like they were burning. By drinking the liquor like that, Lin Feng was making his physical strength flow at full speed and it made him satisfied. "So pleasant," said Lin Feng while exhaling some burning qi. His strength was flowing through his body, it felt extremely pleasant. His body was becoming stronger, the stronger the liquor, the better for his body. Lan Jiao was speechless when she saw Lin Feng. As expected, he wasn't an ordinary man. Lin Feng looked at the glass made of jade, it was empty. He then immediately poured some more. Lan Jiao was stunned. He then immediately downed it again. Burp, burp. Lin Feng burped and his face turned even redder. His cheeks, ears, nose, his entire face was red. Besides, the pure qi and the Haruka's strength were boiling in his body, they were flowing at full speed. Lin Feng had the impression he was going to start burning. "Oh my god, so good!" exclaimed Lin Feng. Lan Jiao could sense the scorching hot qi flowing out of his mouth while he was talking. That qi even hurt her face. "He's insane." Lan Jiao was speechless. Everybody was also blankly staring at him. That guy was scary. Those who had just insulted Lin Feng were also stunned. They didn't dare say anything anymore. If they had drunk like Lin Feng, they would have died. Their internal organs and blood vessels would have burnt and caused their deaths. However, Lin Feng felt good and loved it. There was a problem though, they could now understand that Lin Feng's cultivation level was higher than theirs, much higher. Those two people stood up, they wanted to leave. They lightly stepped on the floor in order not to draw Lin Feng's attention. Cough, cough. Someone coughed, which made those two sneaking suddenly feel tense and nervous. "Stop," said Lin Feng in an ice-cold voice. Their heartbeats suddenly accelerated. "Go back to your seats," Lin Feng demanded. Those two people looked even more nervous. They didn't leave, they went back to the table where they had been sitting a moment before. "You want to leave without apologizing?" said Lin Feng while slowly turning to them and looking at them in an ice-cold way. If they had insulted him only once, Lin Feng wouldn't have said anything. He didn't like conflict so he wouldn't care. But after Lan Jiao had talked, they had insulted him again, there were limits to his patience. "We are ignorant, Your Excellency, we didn't offend you on purpose, we just wanted to remind Your Excellency to be careful when drinking that liquor that way," said one of them, trying to make Lin Feng believe that he hadn't meant to offend him. Lin Feng was just smiling coldly though. He couldn't believe some people were so shameless. "Oh, very good, so you can give me some tips now," said Lin Feng coldly. "We would never dare, Your Excellency, the way you drink it is the right way. We made a mistake, we were wrong," said that person. "Indeed," nodded Lin Feng. "Since you didn't know, you too, down a glass of that liquor, just like I did." Those people were speechless. Drink it like Lin Feng? They pulled a long face, they were scared and trapped, what could they do? "Quickly, I don't have time to waste," exclaimed Lin Feng in an ice-cold way while releasing some terrifying ice-cold killer qi which enveloped their bodies. They had the impression that they had landed in hell when they sensed that terrifying qi. What a terrifying energy! Lin Feng was a lot stronger than them, he could kill them in the blink of an eye if he wished. Other people also sensed his energy, they were happy that they had said nothing when Lin Feng had drunk his glasses in one gulp. That guy was clearly extremely strong. He could have even gone to higher floors. But they had never seen him before. It was probably his first time in the restaurant. Finally, under Lin Feng's oppressive qi, those people just put a purity stone of higher quality in the cleft and some hot unit liquor appeared. They grabbed it but their hands were shaking. "Drink!" shouted Lin Feng in an ice-cold way. Then, those two people drank the alcohol in one gulp. Aha! One of them put his hand on his chest, his body was burning, he was going to burn. Achoo! Blood immediately splashed out of the other's head, and his face was entirely red. Lin Feng looked at them in an ice-cold way, but he was actually surprised. That alcohol was really strong, it was dangerous for cultivators of the first Xian Qi layer. "Lin Feng, let's go to the 8th floor. There is some amazing liquor there," said Lan Jiao while smiling at Lin Feng. Lin Feng glanced at her. The 8th floor was reserved for cultivators of the 4th Xian-Qi layer at least. He had only broken through to the 3rd Xian-Qi layer. They are not that rigid. If you show the guards that you are strong enough, more precisely your fighting abilities, you will be able to get in, explained Lan Jiao while smiling. Immediately after she started running, she looked like she was floating over the ground. She was running but looked like a flying butterfly, besides she was extremely quick. Come! Shouted Lan Jiao. Lin Feng followed her to the flight of stairs. Stop! Shouted a voice. Someone was running after Lan Jiao on the flight of stairs, and Lin Feng could see them from behind. He was astonished. That girl, Lin Feng was speechless. Lan Jiao had just broken through to the 1st Xian-Qi layer, and it hadn't been a long time. She could only stay on that floor. But surprisingly, she was running towards the 8th floor. Lin Feng made a step and chased after them too. Very quickly, he disappeared from the people's field of vision. 8th floor, whispered the people on the 5th floor. They were astonished. When they heard Lan Jiao, they understood that that young man with whom she was had the fighting abilities to go to the 8th floor. They were astonished. How scary! In the flight of stairs, silhouettes were flickered. Lan Jiao passed by the 6th floor but didn't stop. She continued running, passed by the 7th floor. Immediately a guard came out to attack her but missed her. Lin Feng, hurry up! Shouted Lan Jiao. She then arrived on the 8th floor and finally stopped. She was stuck at the top of the building. When Lan Jiao arrived at the top, there was an old man, the guard of the top floor. Besides, on Lan Jiao's other side there were 2 silhouettes, the guards of the 6th and 7th floor. They were angry at Lan Jiao. That girl was too audacious. She had surprisingly forced her way to the top floor. Go back! Shouted the guard of the 8th floor furiously. He immediately raised his hand which bombarded Lan Jiao's body. Lan Jiao tried to dodge but failed and blood splashed out of her mouth. The guard of the top floor had broken through to the 4th Xian-Qi layer. Having broken through to the 4th Xian-Qi layer or defeating him were the 2 only ways to get in. Lan Jiao was obviously unable to get in. What a stupid bitch, she surprisingly dares rush to the top floor. Shouted that person furiously while getting closer and closer to Lan Jiao. She was encircled. You're not coming to help, said Lan Jiao when she saw that Lin Feng was walking so slowly. When the 3 guards heard Lan Jiao, they turned around and looked at Lin Feng. They were stupefied. A cultivator of the 3rd Xian-Qi layer. What makes you think you can come to the top floor? Bawled the guard of the top floor furiously. Lin Feng was stupefied. That person could surprisingly determine his cultivation level at first glance. In Dragon Mountain, many people practice the Celestial Eyes technique. They can thus immediately determine someone's cultivation level, at first glance. Said Lan Jiao, who knew why Lin Feng looked surprised. Then she said something surprising. Bastard, some people are humiliating and beating your wife and you're not doing anything. Eeh. Lin Feng was astonished. His wife. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.